Sandpine.
Hello and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday the 8th of March 2015. I'm your host Dan Train. Joining me today, Robert Kemp.
Correctly seated.
And Zachary Burgess.
I'm ill.
Never do, never die. You don't seem at all ill. You seem perfectly fine. I'm not sure. You don't even seem like down in the dumps or anything.
I'm tired and dizzy.
Dizzy?
Yes. Not that bad, but it gets worse if I have to leave suddenly. It's like if I stand up and then realise that because I've been sitting down I haven't noticed, then I'm like, oh, time to go.
When do you ever have to leave here suddenly, though? Like, when I have to leave suddenly, I get ill.
That's not what I said.
It sounded a bit like that's what was implied.
I said when I have to leave suddenly, maybe tonight. That was like a warning.
Okay.
You'll suddenly get dizzy?
Yes, I'll suddenly stand up and realise that because I've been sitting down and not moving, I have noticed that it's been getting worse.
But you know what the solution is? Never move.
It's not that easy.
You do it better than most, to be fair.
That is the best thing about being a sort of like an ill gamer in a way, because you just get ill, you don't move, you play games, and the world is normal.
I'm an ill gamer.
Ill gamer,
It's time to get ill.
Word. There's not been... has there ever been, apart from Parappa the Rapper, a good ill video game?
What game to play when you're ill? There's loads.
Well, no, not going to play when you're ill, but like games
Games
that about
ill-in.
either about illness or is well ill. No one has ever said well ill.
There's some ill-in games, I'm sure, but I don't know about games about being ill. Which one is it in Parappa that is about being sick?
The one where they eat the thing and then he has to go shit.
There's the toilet level, yeah.
That's the last level, isn't it? Where you have to get past the queue of all the
No, it's not the last level, that's the fifth of six.
Oh, penultimate, okay.
Because the last level is the epic.
You gotta believe!
Yeah.
Stage performance.
Which is the crappiest level.
Yep.
Which is saying something, given that the last level was about crap.
Crap of the rapper.
Crapper. It was a good game. Groundbreaking. Made rhythm games a thing.
Speaking of rhythm games, they might be coming back! Sort of.
Yeah,
I don't know.
rhythm games are kind of returning, guys.
Really?
With their endless libraries. Well, because there was that news a few like a month ago now, wasn't it, where Harmonix were experimenting with releasing Rock Band 3 DLC again.
Right, yeah. And they've got a few new tracks, right?
Yeah,
Available.
I think it was like new Foo Fighters stuff, wasn't it? It was on.
Goddamn
It was all included. And now it turns out Rock Band 4 is a thing.
Oh, yeah.
But they have the biggest problem to solve, which is all the peripheral jank. Like, what the hell is going to happen with all that stuff? Like, presumably some of it they'll make work. But I don't know. I would expect none of the wireless stuff will still function.
But they're going to make all the old songs work, right? All the DLC carries over.
You'd think, yeah.
Well, I mean...
Depends if they have a license.
There is that. There is whether or not they have to... Because that was the reason why you had to, when you moved from Rock Band 1 to 2, if you wanted to keep all your Rock Band 1 songs and rip them to the hard disk, there was a license fee to pay to do that. That was the only way that I think they could agree with the music companies or the record labels to actually allow them to do that.
That A&R men.
So you basically had to pay to keep what you already had and make it convenient, I guess, which is a bit weird. But then that might have changed, I guess, with Rock Band Network. Anything you DLC'd is probably okay, because you've already bought the license to that yourself, probably.
I don't know how the legals work out, but it sounds promising. I would say.
I just don't want to have to buy 4 more bits of musical instrument.
No, well, you shouldn't have to. I'm sure they'll find some way to interface that stuff.
Yeah. I don't think we had a couple of wireless things, I think, but between all of us, but most of it was wired.
Yeah, I think I had a 360 Guitar Hero wireless guitar, but that probably doesn't work with Rock Band, does it?
It does. They
Okay.
all worked. They all worked with each other.
Right, a Guitar Hero.
With the even Guitar Hero would let you use the Rock Band drums, even though the Guitar Hero drum tracks were normally 5 button.
Yeah,
and Rock Band is only 4, they did something to allow you to
do it.
Yeah,
That's pretty good. Because they got to the point where they were just stacked up in shops, and they were trying to offload them for whatever they could.
Yeah.
For like 10 or something for like giant kit of.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think I saw the. I did see a ridiculous bundle for about 20 quid once. I think had both the drum kit and a guitar in it, and a copy of Rock Band 3.
Yeah,
and it's like retailers just wanted to get rid of that shit at one
to
point.
shift it because it was taking up so much space, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I probably wouldn't mind buying a new guitar at this point. Plastic guitar. Never mind real guitars.
All of ours still work though. We've never broken one.
Yeah, I still prefer the Guitar Hero ones to the Rock Band ones. Just on the click.
The clicky strummers.
Yeah, I prefer them. But yeah, I've probably still got my Les Paul from Guitar Hero 3 that probably still work.
Yeah, I never really minded which guitar really.
Mm.
They all worked as far as I was concerned, and I was always the one drumming. It seemed anyway. So
yeah, well, you were the drum master.
My feet don't do what I tell them. That's true of all walks of life.
All walks. Walks of life.
See what
you did there. What did you do there? Something to do with feet and walking?
Yeah. Is that a pun, technically? Is that a pun?
Zach?
Or is it just appalling wordplay?
Probably.
Insightful.
Insightful. Incisive insight.
So Rock Band 4. Stuff happens.
Why do we go straight into news?
Because
we're talking about Parappa the Rapper, that's why.
Yeah, and then you were
Because
like,
we need
games.
let's roll it back to dumb shit.
Yeah, come on. Gotta get our dumb shit out of the way.
we could talk about what we did this week.
Can we?
Well, I did a lot of crazy shit this week.
Yeah.
I suppose you did.
Rob's had a good week.
Been Dublin and everything. Had Guinness and pizza and smoking bones.
Surprise.
And,
Doubling up.
yeah. I Dublined down. No, it doesn't work. That doesn't work. Yeah, I had all kinds of stuff. And, of course, the most gaming-related thing... Well, it's the most gaming-related thing we did. Or the second most gaming thing I did. Gnome Found's the only pinball table in Dublin.
The only one in Dublin?
Apparently, yeah.
What do you mean, apparently? There must be some.
There are because finding one in the wild is really rare.
Right.
A private... They're almost all privately owned now.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I know of a bar in London that has pinball tables.
Yeah.
The Pipeline.
Yeah.
And there's this one place, I think it was called Dr. Quirky's Fun Emporium or something, which is basically it's a shit show. It's like all gambling machines. Apart from this one pinball table, which was a Metallica table.
It doesn't seem like they should actually be that rare, considering there was
Yeah.
one or two in the fucking bowling alley, literally across the street from your house, in the tiny town in the middle of Suffolk for years.
Yeah, there used to be a Family Guy machine. Yeah,
you think
across the road.
Bowling alleys would be the place you'd probably find them. The classic place.
It's just because they went out of favour with amusement places because they are just a nightmare to keep running.
Right.
Like, it's very rare that you come across a table that hasn't got a fault of some kind. Like, even this Metallica table, even though it was in pretty damn good nick, one of the drop holes just didn't function in terms of telling the game that you made the shot. All the mechanics still worked. So you'd shoot it in the shot and it would still know that the ball was there and fire it back out.
Mm-hmm.
But the game was never told that had happened. And unfortunately, that was the extra ball shot. Oh. So it's like, oh goddamn, I can never score these extra balls I've got lined up. But that table was like incredibly generous with replays, so it didn't really matter that much. I was just earning a special pretty much every game. Which is cool. Gets to make that horrible clacker noise. Pog! And it's like, here, have some credits. Love that noise. It's such a weird... I don't even know how they do it. There must be a mechanical clacker of some kind in tables, but it doesn't just sound like two things slapping together. It makes like a proper sort of wood blocky, hollow talk noise, or like a pop! It's incredibly loudly. What's awesome.
Yeah, don't know how that's done. Maybe we can find one in pieces.
Yeah.
And see what's actually hitting what.
I'm sure I could just look it up, but it's a cool noise. So we did that, pinball. And then I spent most of my Friday at the Heart of Gaming in London. It's just like the only arcade left ever.
Beating heart of gaming. In the ugliest part of London I've ever seen, and that's saying something.
It is in a bit of a crap hole part of London.
Yes. Well, was it North Acton, right?
North
Acton. On the central
yes.
line, so you just get on there from anywhere. Pretty much in the centre.
Yeah.
Come out to a horrible industrial estate full of security gates and...
Got my Time Crisis 2 on. Fucking love that game. So good.
How many times did you play through Time Crisis? I saw you play through it once, that was cool.
Yeah, we played it about 2.5 times, I think, while we were there, in total. I dread to think how many times I've played it through to the end overall, because I had the PS2 version.
Oh, yeah.
Played that all the goddamn time.
Man, the guns for that were really weird, the PS2.
G-Con 2?
Yeah, the G-Con.
G-Con 2 was awesome.
It wasn't as good as the G-Con.
It was just as good. In fairness, I actually didn't use G-Con 2s, I had G-Cons, and they still worked.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a moot point.
Moot.
Go back and play some... Oh, I'd like to go back and play some Point Blank or something at some point. Used to love that game as well. It was so crazy.
Oh yeah, Point Blank. That actually came bundled with the G-Con, didn't it? Or did they both?
There was what? Yeah, I think they did bundles for.
Because I had Time Crisis 1 on the PS1.
Yeah,
that had the G-Con.
Yeah, I had both Time Crisis 2 and 3 on the PS2. But 2 was the essential one because 2 is it's like one of the earliest examples of a remake that it actually redid the entire graphics of the game.
Oh yeah, they did, didn't they? That was it was proper remaster.
Yeah, it was a real good. They did a really good job of it.
So who made those games again?
Namco.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It actually had a pretty cool clay pigeon shooting game bundled in as well. Like it was quite technical, quite precise. Quite a well-made thing. It was a good package. TC2. It's just you could never play it again. It's like I think people have had some success with using PS2 emulators and light gun setups for PC,
right?
Which are somewhat awkward because you need to rig up sensor rigs and stuff to get them to work. But I've heard you can. There are plugins and things you can do to get that kind of working. So if you have a copy, it might be worth investigating. But I've never been able to find somewhere that will sell light guns for PC in the UK or to the UK. Like it just doesn't. They just don't exist. Bring back the light guns, bitches. I mean, this is the weird thing I find. Like as much as I'd like the idea of arcades, and I still like the idea of everyone going to this place and having actually seeing people face to face rather than online bullshit. It's like most of the arcades that everyone has are ones with a joystick and like traditional controls, I suppose is what you'd call it.
Yeah, it's like fighting stick.
Which to me, yeah, surely one of the advantages of having an arcade is the gimmick control schemes, right?
Yeah,
like light guns, like racing games, like.
Yeah, but the trouble with that is they're always gigantic.
That is true. Yeah.
And they wasting a lot of space on not as many people.
And they are probably difficult to maintain because they're not like a standard, like the Naomi board, like a lot of things run on for it, like all the Sega stuff used to run on. Like you can't just swap the game out and run it on the same, effectively, console underneath.
You don't need to worry about light guns because, spoilers for news, but soon you'll be holding a convenient controller that basically works like a light gun because it can detect where it is and what direction it's pointing.
Yeah.
Spoilers for news.
Haven't they done that a million times? That's the Move controller, right?
Yes, but it'll be on PC, is what I was saying.
But
so as soon as someone gets that to work with PC, then maybe the light gun problem is solved.
But is it going to have the accuracy of pointing along an axis, to hit a surface?
You have to calibrate it.
Are we still spoiling for news here?
This is news. I mean, there's no random.
What are you talking about? What are we doing?
Talking about ValveVR.
Oh, and that... No, but the stupid video I saw was Morpheus with Move controllers, wasn't it?
No, ValveVR that they just announced at GDC on the 3rd.
The Vive thing.
Reeve.
Sure, but that's got nothing
to do with... That's got two controllers that have sensors all over them that work on the same sensor field as the
outside
thing.
of the goggles, right?
Oh, that I didn't see.
Because that scans the whole room, right? Doesn't it? Yeah.
Because I've seen the counter shot that's been floating. The one that seems to have been doing more rounds, if you ask me, is the one with someone wearing a Morpheus holding two Move controllers.
Yeah, but that's
basically what it's doing, except better. because it does look a bit weird though, because it's like you have a sort of handle grip controller type thing, like a move controller, except at the end where there would normally be a ball on the move controller, there's like a giant sort of hexagon that's like really big. It's like wider than your hand because it has to have a full set of those sensors on it.
Yeah, right. So the sensor are on the thing you're holding, not on.
Yeah, because that's the whole point of that Valve system, is because it's the opposite of how Move works. It's the cameras are on the goggles and the controller rather than the camera looking at the goggles and the controller.
That's the difference.
Because basically you just stick a laser thing in the corner of your room and it sprays the room with lasers. Infrared lasers. Probably not compatible with Kinect. Don't have them on at the same time.
Actually, so that's how the Valve shit works, is it? Immediately turned off by that.
I think that sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
That sounds so much better.
That sounds like the worst solution, because that means you're going to have to mount something in the fucking corner of your room.
Big fucking whoop.
But that means like having to drill a mount in the corner of your ceiling just for
it's probably not.
And run a cable somewhere.
It
And
depends whether it's wireless, I suppose.
that sounds horrible.
No, but that's not. Though you wouldn't have to wire those because those are just transmitting the laser light.
Yeah,
and it's
you need power.
Could be battery powered. Depends how much power output it requires.
That sounds wildly inconvenient.
Barely inconvenient. You're just obsessed with wires. That's your big problem.
You say that. I just ran more cables around the room recently. It's like I don't have a problem with cables as long as they're accessible and convenient to set up. Like, well, okay, yes, I would rather that I had less of them, but
so what's the difference? Because you have to wire up the PlayStation Eye or whatever it is.
Yes, but it's sat right there. I don't have to run a cable up the wall and mount something to my ceiling. I can just sit an eye on the telly.
Well, arguably with the Valve thing, if you don't want to use the capability of being able to walk around your room, you probably could put them actually quite close to you, as long as they're off on opposite sides.
Put it wherever, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, if it could sit where the Kinect is, fine.
That's absolutely, I think the problem is you do need two of them.
Right.
It's like you need one in front and one behind. So when you turn around, it doesn't obscure the
line of sight.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I don't doubt that probably creates an easier way of doing the detection. For instance, that must mean that it's somewhat easier for them to track, right? Because they're having to create this more complicated field, and more coverage means better results. That's why people back in the original Kinect days were hacking solutions with multiple Kinects to get a sort of true 3D view of things.
Yeah, people still do that, right?
Oh yeah, people still muck around with that shit, yeah. But for unless you're going to go to the effort, as I say, of mounting these things in the proper locations, having some way of doing it, I see that as being a real turn-off. Because, not many, I guess the majority of the gaming market doesn't put their stuff in a nice big room like I have.
Well, the thing is, they keep saying that you can set this up in opposite corners of a 15 by 15 foot room and then walk around in the room. It's like, think about this room. How much actual floor space out of a 15 by 15 foot room could you actually walk around in? It's 5 foot square.
Oh yeah, that is one of the major problems with Kinect as it stands, isn't it? You need more space than most people have.
But at least in this Valve system, they say it it basically virtually puts the obstructions of your room into the world. So when you're walking towards a wall, an invisible ghost of a wall phases into the game. So you don't just walk into it.
Smart. That's actually quite smart.
I presume that will also work for small things like tables, hopefully. It won't just be... Or that could just project a wall and have that represent the table, so it knows what percentage of the floor coverage it is.
So the corollary to this is if they're going to be doing stuff where you're inside a room or something, is that Microsoft came out and said HoloLens is going to have X-Bone capabilities.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And that there will be games developed with HoloLens in mind. Whether that means they'll go whole hog and make just straight up HoloLens games, I probably doubt, because, that's how peripherals always work, right? But at the same time, depending on how good their holography is, like how much of your vision those things could take over, they could achieve a similar effect, right? It's like, here's a wall.
Well, I think it's fairly safe.
You can see it, don't walk into it.
Right.
I think it's fairly safe to say that for quite a long time in the early games of these VR systems, there's not going to be any walking around. Because that's just
that
just doesn't actually work until you just have a room that's only for your VR.
Yeah, exactly. You need to make sure, and how much are you going to trust it to say, oh, there's a tiny object on the floor that you're going to stand on, and it's going to detect that and warn you about it. Anyone with kids will probably be like, hey, there's a micro machine or whatever the current small toy
If your kids
is.
stand on a micro machine, I think that's going to happen regardless of whether you have it detected by VR.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be able to see it.
How often are you looking at the floor most of the time?
That's a good point, but you would see it from afar as you walked in that general direction, maybe. Peripheral. I don't know. The other question that comes out of all this is, do Oculus really need to get their bloody skates on at this point?
Well, Valve want to release this thing this year.
Yeah.
So, apparently.
Yeah. Which then begs the other question, well, how did these guys do stuff so fast? And, hands-on impressions have come away pretty positive. Whereas Oculus are taking so goddamn long to do this. Like, is there something about the Oculus that requires this time?
It just doesn't seem like
there's
has said anything that they're doing recently. It's just like they might have been doing a lot of work, we just don't know, because there doesn't seem to have been any news coming out of it.
Yeah.
Is all the low latency stuff, like, in Oculus that isn't in these other ones, and these other ones are just all like, yeah, whatever, it just seems to all just crap something out and get to the market first, whereas Oculus are being super, the Carmack effect, and being super picky about that stuff.
It's done when it's done.
Yeah. It's an interesting question.
They've got the Facebook resources now, anyway.
Well, you'd think that after they spent like $2 billion, they probably want to start making money on it at some point.
Well, no, not always. No, people like Google and Facebook tend to acquire companies and not planning on making money out of them for a long time, especially when they're like, just like research projects.
Yeah, when it's too early. Well, they don't want to fall into the classic Microsoft area, which is Microsoft often innovate in technology space, but they innovate and put something out, which then fails miserably because the tech, it's not quite there yet and public acceptance doesn't quite work. Like, do you remember the Courier? The Courier is a good example. It was basically the first modern tablet-y sort of design. Admittedly, it was a book with like 2 screens and stuff, but it predates the iPad and stuff like that. And so they didn't actually put that out because they didn't think people were accepting of it. And then Apple were like, oh, hey, here's the iPad. Or alternatives, like technically the first smartwatch was by Microsoft years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, they do have a tendency to do that. But I think they'll do right by the HoloLens, but it's just different because it's AR, most definitely AR rather than VR. I know they're quite similar, but they're pitching it slightly differently, I think, to I would say that Morpheus and Oculus and stuff are competing in the same, definitely the same space, whereas HoloLens
is trying something different. Yeah. But we don't know if it has the same capabilities, though. That's what I mean. I wonder if...
Yeah. I don't know if you can block out the real world with the HoloLens, though. I don't think they want you to be able to block it out. I think they want to augment reality rather
But then that depends. But then surely if you're displaying stuff, then you need to be able to block stuff out anyway, unless it's going to be translucent the entire time, in which size I'm not entirely interested. I don't want translucent objects appearing everywhere.
Right.
I want the object appearing.
Yeah, sure. Fair enough. Yeah, I guess it has to be able to block out. But, yeah.
It might not. I fully believe that it might be translucent, but that's not the ideal, surely.
Yeah.
Especially if that Minecraft image they showed is anything to go by.
Well, they seem to be demoing like the surface of Mars or something, so that's a bit more VR-like than AR-like. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah. If it is VR-like, then HoloLens obviously has the advantage of they can just go transparent, which the others then can't.
Exactly. That is probably a big difference.
Yeah.
A big deal.
Yeah, it's incredibly interesting. Don't get me wrong, and I think as soon as someone lands on at least a way where I can wear a headset, hold a controller, and just game in VR. I don't care about all this fucking moving around bullshit. As long as I can just look around with a controller in my hands, I am more than happy.
So it seems from this that this Vive thing is definitely more about walking around than the others, like moving around the environment.
It's because because of the way those sensors work. Because it's not a single field of view camera.
Yeah.
Because it has the full room coverage, it can actually do it.
Which is sort of cool. I like that they're doing something slightly different.
Oh yeah, it's interesting.
Because it is a bit weird, like, with you are kind of stuck in one place, sort of.
It might be one of those things that would be best used as a sort of exhibition tool rather than a home device.
Possibly.
If you go somewhere where... or
arcade.
Yeah, they're specifically made spaces for specifically made games,
Because it's a lot closer to a holodeck than the Oculus.
Yes.
Because it tracks you and the other people wearing similar outfits within the space between the two lighthouse sensor things.
Yeah.
So, because it's really, I mean, we know that playing an FPS with the Oculus and like moving with the control stick is really weird. And even with those infinite treadmill things, which are really insane, it's still not quite right. Whereas with this thing, it's literally tracking your actual position as you literally move, right?
Yeah.
That's got to feel more natural.
Sure, but then there's going to be...
But then you run out of space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is exactly what we're saying. But I still think it sounds cool.
Can't walk indefinitely.
No.
Yeah, it would be good within the limited space that, within the obvious limitations that this thing introduces.
Yeah.
But as I say, I think it's going to require designated spaces in which to correctly use this. I don't think the home user is really going to benefit from all this.
Possibly not.
Still, very interesting.
Maybe we'll move back to a sort of arcade thing where everyone goes somewhere and plugs in.
Well, at least you'll be able to have like
holodeck. Because with the holodeck in Star Trek, you have to actually physically go to the holodeck. You can't just use it in your room.
Yeah, there's something about the room that does all the fancy stuff.
It's a big fucking room as well.
Well, yeah, but then how do they manage to running out of space? That's not like
It's one of those. Yeah,
it's just the whole floor, just a giant omnidirectional treadmill that like follows individual people somehow.
Somehow, yeah. I'm sure they've had adventures where they've got split up on the holodeck, and they must have been walled into two separate parts of the holodeck so that they could be individually tracked.
Yeah.
So that they could be miles apart from each other in the space of wherever they are, 20th century Earth or whatever.
Yeah, I can't remember those. I only ever remember the ones where they're like stuck in a room or something. Or
wasn't there a Robin Hood one?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Did they get separated in that one?
Probably by far enough that it would have been larger than whatever room they were
in. Yeah.
Did they get on horses? Because how would the holodeck model that?
Maybe holodecks just don't. Maybe
they would need hard light, right? To get any of this to work.
Well, all they do the holodeck is hard light. That's the whole point of the holodeck.
You can touch things.
You can get shot.
Yeah, you can die.
Turn the safeties off.
If you turn off the safety protocol.
As you always do.
Which inevitably happens every single time. Anyway.
Maybe the holodeck is just like a teleporter. It's like you don't actually notice it happening, but like after you walk a certain distance, it just teleports you back to the start of the room again.
But it takes time, doesn't it? All the beaming takes time.
Maybe.
Yeah. Or maybe it's like replicating under your feet or something.
Or maybe the room is like maybe it's like a sphere, and then because obviously they already have artificial gravity, so you can just walk infinitely around the
Oh, that's a great idea.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
It'd have to be big enough so you didn't notice the incline properly. Yeah.
But then you'd have to rotate if you needed to leave. You'd be like end program, and it'd be like quick rotate you back so you can walk out.
Then it can teleport you.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. So I suppose the other detail with this ValveVR stuff is, unlike the others, they're not technically tied to HTC. HTC are just the partner that's come out first. Yeah.
Similar to Steam machines.
Yeah, it's the same deal.
Which is cool.
In that ValveVR will be a library, effectively, and people can choose to integrate. So we may see even better stuff, even weird and or perhaps stuff that doesn't use all this crazy room laser stuff. Maybe Oculus will just say, "Oh shit, we're going to need to make a ValveVR plugin for this now."
It just seems like the idea of the room covering laser method would have been the more obvious solution for Carmack's obsession over timing and everything. Because the way they describe the Valve system, it's like it seems fairly obvious that that's incredibly more accurate for head tracking. Yeah. Even just head tracking.
Even that, yeah, makes sense. Yeah. I wonder what Carmack will do. I mean, because they've been the Oculus was even in the original Kickstarter video for Oculus, like Gabe Newell's appearing in that and stuff. Valve has always supported Oculus. Like, TF2 was one of the first games you could play on Oculus and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
which is what makes this move feel a little dickish.
I don't think so. You've got to just make the best product, haven't you?
Valve got bored of waiting for it to come out. They were just like, "Fuck, we'll make our own one."
Yeah, it's great. Let's make it. And also, maybe it wasn't going in quite the direction they were thinking, and they were like, "Oh, we can do this crazy laser shit. Let's just do it."
Yeah, I don't know. For the living room, which is Valve's focus, it seems like the worst way to do it. But never mind. In other Valve news, Valve.
It's a company.
Yep, it's still a Valve.
Located in Bellevue, Washington.
They might be doing something interesting that is not VR and weird. Source 2. How long has it been? But Source 2.
Source 2, and it's free, and they only announced that like 2 weeks after Unreal announced that they were free.
Yeah.
So it's all free.
Everything's free. Engines are going free, people.
Unreal Engine is free, which is pretty cool.
Well, I reckon it'll be maybe not with Source 2, but Unreal Engine might have the similar deal as what Unity always has, and that it's always free to develop against. But the moment you go commercial, stuff kicks in.
Yeah, that's what they have. Yeah, that's it. That's the deal.
What, even with Source 2?
No,
Source 2 is totally
with Unreal.
Yeah,
with
Unreal. Source 2 is totally free.
Yeah, that's the difference, I guess. But I reckon Unreal probably has more mature development, even though the focus for Source 2 is on like make it easier to develop for, even for non-professionals.
Yeah,
I reckon Unreal are probably got to be ahead there.
Yeah, and I can't help but think, well, maybe not in that space, but I can't help but think that Source 2 just isn't going to be, and this is very speculative, but I think it's highly unlikely it'll be up to the technical chops of new Unreal Engine. Yeah,
well, who knows? I mean, they managed to make quite disparate, different games with it, like Dota and...
Yeah, sure, but none of them are doing...
No, I'm not saying they're doing the
fanciest
graphics. No, I mean the fanciest graphics. I mean, we'll have to see, because I think the most interesting news for me was the way they're talking about supporting the Vulcan graphics technology, the OpenGL Next stuff.
That stuff is cool.
Because that's the stuff they need in order to... They need to, like, catch up to and surpass potentially stuff like DirectX in order to make Steam machines and Steam OS and the future of PC gaming viable without Microsoft or any other party.
Multi-platform needs to be a thing,
and
it needs to be a thing correctly, and Vulcan might be the only good way of doing it.
Yeah. So if they can support that and get... That's always been an issue for me, is like the graphics drivers, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't run games on Linux and have them look like they do on Windows because of DirectX.
Yep. Although, a lot of OpenGL stuff isn't that far off.
No, but this is just it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what Vulcan is. It's the next OpenGL or whatever, so it's going to have...
Kinda.
More, potentially, even, than you can do on console, because you can iterate faster.
That's a big assumption.
Well, it's definitely true.
Iterate faster, provided then all the graphics people can make their drivers work with it.
Yeah, but they can iterate faster than
the developers
consoles can as well.
Because Vulcan, again, kinda, they've got much more to deal with. Like, a graphics card manufacturer will have like 10 cards they need to support at any one time, and getting it to run across all 10.
Yeah.
Possibly not as fast as you expect.
Yeah, but they don't.
Whereas
have
a console, if they had Vulcan on consoles, they'd be like, "Oh, we've got one device we need to make work." Problem solved.
It's the same with graphics cards now. That like they're supporting a range of 10 or whatever, but only the latest ones have the latest DirectX version working or whatever. They say supports 11C or whatever.
Oh, yeah, there's a buffer zone, but it's quite a large buffer zone.
Yeah,
they still go back as far as the 700 series, I think.
Sure.
So, mine's dropped off the regular updates, I think, for like...
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think the 600 series, they don't get the major, like, oh, you need this driver to make this game work totally well anymore. Right. I think that's pretty much just stopped.
Right, fair enough. Yeah. But, like, compared to the console life cycle of, like, 7 years or whatever it is. Although they do have firmware updates on those.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like
not as fast.
If a console supported Vulcan, then... That'd be one thing you'd need to fix,
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess that's what they want with these Steam games, right?
Exactly.
They want them to be like console-like.
Exactly. I'm just my point is, I don't think that's an argument for things being faster to cycle. I don't. That's the one problem with multi-platform development, is that you end up with all these arms that come off it and make assuming that all of the arms are going to run in sequence with what's happening in the middle. Sure, the middle might update real frequently, but then you're relying on a million other people to then make sure that everything around the outside is in sync.
Yeah, I don't
And
think
that doesn't happen.
it won't be kept in sync. There's no way.
Yeah, so
That's the way the PC platform is. It's massively fragmented, isn't it? In comparison to consoles, which are
exactly. So that will always be a problem, and therefore turnaround times are unpredictable.
Unless you set them to be on
But
a
then
schedule.
but then the other guys don't have to adhere to those, do they?
No,
It's
exactly.
that's what I mean. There's no guarantee. Zero guarantee. But this isn't taken away from the fact it's cool stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the future, some of that stuff. But, who knows? The next DirectX comes with Windows 10, I guess. So it might have some ultra insane stuff that will just crush the PS4, etc. when you're running PC games. And the Xbox One as well.
Yeah, let's see what happens with that. I might have been wrong about DX12 coming to Xbone. I tried looking it up and I couldn't find a lot.
Well, they've got less graphics memory than the PS4, haven't they? Plus you kind of have to make architectural changes, just as you're saying just now, in order to keep up with this stuff that you on graphics hardware.
Sure, but Microsoft have one thing they need to worry about. It's a different problem. Microsoft don't do that stuff, do they? They only ever have one device they need to actually make work with DX, and that's their own thing.
Yeah.
Because it's NVIDIA's and ATI's problem.
Yeah, sure.
So if they would do it, I don't think they will do it, actually, because otherwise they would have said something.
Yeah.
Something a bit more concrete by now.
Because it would be kind of a boon.
Yeah, it'd be a massive deal. But maybe there's precisely something that the Xbone doesn't have that makes the X12 impossible. I don't know. We'll never know.
It's not like the PS4 will have it either.
No.
Because they're virtually the same.
Yeah. We will never know. Stuff! A whole heap more Steam machines coming, which they are claiming will be more powerful than existing consoles for the price.
For the same price as a console.
Yeah.
It's probably true around now.
Maybe. Maybe. But
you won't get the efficiencies of developing for that single platform, so it'll probably even out to about the same, I would say.
Yeah, for the price range.
For the price,
but they did ramp up significantly. You could get monster boxes.
Oh, yeah. I still don't know why you wouldn't just dual boot to like a...
Yeah.
It's just a PC at that point, isn't it?
It's like, it seems a bit extravagant, doesn't it, to have a Steam machine, like when you've got a perfectly decent... If you have a perfectly decent other PC.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so they've solved that gap, though, for their living room takeover plan with a little box, haven't they?
Steam Link. But, again, always lots of ifs and buts that we don't know about. If it's anything like the current state of Steam streaming...
Mm-hmm.
Enough people have concerns about the latency that introduces to...
When I tried it, like I said on the podcast, it was perfectly fine. And
That's what I mean,
considering how shitty... I was running it through a shitty BT Home Hub 2 or whatever. It was perfectly alright. And I was like... And then people were talking about, there's this massive input lag. And I'm like, what? Seemed fine to me.
Yeah, perception differs per person. For some it will be absolutely fine. And...
I think Zach has a lot of sensitivity to input lag compared to most people.
I don't have as much sensitivity to graphics lag like Rob does. And I was testing it on Rogue Legacy. If that's not a game where you can detect input lag, then what the fuck is?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Well, where were you streaming? Where were you streaming from where to where though?
From my bedroom to the Mac downstairs.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
that is technically quite a short distance in direct. It's not like to the front room.
No, sure, but that's enough. That's enough to prove the point. Oh, interesting.
Do you think you'll get one to attach to the front room? How much are they? Like 30, 40 quid or something?
No one. It's like
$50. They said $50. Yeah.
If there was any reason to play games on an actual TV compared to just sitting in at my actual computer, it's like my use purpose is there's no use purpose for that.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's pretty cool. Big picture mode is pretty nice. So
yeah, big picture mode is cool. As I'm experiencing now that I've got a setup with a cable.
Finally.
Yeah.
So all that stuff sounds pretty good. I mean, they are dragging their heels, but that's the typical of Valve. They always... just look at Half-Life 3.
Well, we did theorise whether or not this is actually intentional, that they just want to make sure everything of this sort comes out simultaneously, and that they can just say, look, here's the whole package.
I don't see why, though, really. Are people really going to buy the whole package of, Vive plus the two VR controller thingies plus
Those
a
come
Steam
with it,
box plus.
apparently.
Oh, they come with it, do they? Okay, that
It's
makes
a
sense.
single package.
Right, plus all that stuff. Maybe they will. I don't know.
It just seems
People just buy whatever Valve put out anyway. If they put out hardware, people will buy it.
sure.
People are crazy.
It just seems weirdly convenient. That's all. Everything's sort of happening at once. I kind of see why Steam controller and Steam machine have to happen at the same time, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense.
I still think, I still have hopes for that thing. I'm glad they put that thumbstick on there, but it looks pretty good when you're using one thumbstick plus one trackpad to play a first-person game. That looks alright.
Yeah. It's weird. Don't get me wrong, it looks wildly different, and I'm not sure visibly that thing is pretty ugly, but it looks well built, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's an ugly thing.
Just because it looks like an owl.
Yeah, it still looks a bit like an owl, even if they've flattened everything a little.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to try it. I'm not entirely sure whether for all game types, the lack of a right stick is going to be it's going to be useful. And I'm not 100% sure, in the same way that I'm not 100% sure about the symmetrical layout of the Wii U pad, that moving the buttons to where the right stick traditionally is a comfortable choice. Which is weird. It's probably just because that's what I'm used to, but it doesn't quite feel right. Probably, as I say, it's probably a training thing. Like the muscle memory of moving in that direction just isn't there.
Getting it swapped around.
But then again, it's also probably sensible because you need a much bigger range of motion on the Steam pad to what you do on a stick.
Yeah,
you
definitely do.
And then that raises the question, is that the fact that you need that larger range of motion a problem in itself?
Well, that's how you get the fine grain control, isn't it?
Sure, but will it tire your thumb faster? Ooh.
Well, presumably, it depends what you're using it for. If you're just using it as a right stick, you could limit it because you don't need to be as accurate with just like an FPS running around movement scheme.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of... All I'm trying to point out is there's a lot of ifs and a lot of we just don't know there.
That'll just be download the configuration option file.
And tweak it so my slightly smaller than average thumbs can reach across it.
They
and all
have
that
the
stuff.
capability to bind whatever they want.
They have the technology.
But then that's the other question: can people be asked?
That's
because that's the reason consoles, despite even though they're quite expensive to get started and all that stuff, that's the reason consoles work, is because they appeal to I can't be bovered man.
Yeah,
who just wants to turn something on and play a game
and not fiddle with stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could. I'm pretty sure they must make an option in Steam where you can just have it set to download the best configuration file for my Steam controller whenever I launch a game, regardless of what the best is. It's just get one of them.
The best varies per person. That's why I always liked.
But it doesn't.
I always liked on the 360 that you could actually set up some controller defaults on your profile.
Well, yeah.
Like invert Y, or if you tend to be a high sensitivity gamer, all that stuff is in there, and it could categorize it based on the type of game you play. I loved the fact that existed.
But sensitivity Y
confuses the hell out of people when they pick up a game and go, "Why is this inverted by default?" And it's like, "Oh, because you're playing as me." And it's like, I loved that, and I'm surprised they got rid of it on the bone.
Sensitivity and invert is a different thing. That's never going to be tied to these profiles, because that is one option where it is people are completely different. Because invert is like a literal toggle. There's no middle ground. You can't be half.
Where I was going with that is, if, for instance, the range of motion required to get around that entire circle is too much for people with smaller hands. I don't know, kids, certain races, me. A bit like the whole Duke problem from the OG Xbox, that thing was just too big for some people. Is there a suitable way of easily tweaking? Oh, I need a smaller range of motion, please, and I need that smaller range of motion to be here.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be.
Yeah, I just want
Be surprised if they didn't. You know what Valve is like with human testing. Human testing. You know what I mean? User testing. Like they're obsessive about user testing.
Test labs.
Well, that seems like something they would have already sorted out in the hardware stage. I don't think it will be a problem of not being able to reach the whole range of that pad. You might think it is now, but
it just looks so big.
It's an ergonomics thing. Yeah. Presumably they must have already tested that at some point, quite heavily.
On Gabe Newell's hands? I don't know.
He has giant hands.
Yeah.
Probably did test it on it. Too many knives.
Yeah. Again, I have to be the counter argument to this because everyone seems like, oh look, this is amazing, but I always get skeptical when something new comes out because there's a high chance of it being cock.
Well, I don't think we're interested in the Steam Pad anyway.
Because what's wrong with a 360 pad?
Or a mouse. It's like we either use a gamepad or a mouse. We're not the use case for that either.
No.
It'll be when it's for people who like have the Steam machine and that's it. When they buy the Steam machine package and it comes with a controller because it's a console basically.
That's the plan.
And then that will just be like a Wii controller where it's like they'll have to just learn to use it. That's how consoles work.
If Valve are successful in the living room, that presumably that starts posing a little bit of a problem towards Microsoft and Sony in terms of, like, you know, every Steam game you've ever bought is always available wherever you are.
Yep.
And it's like, although that's true of digital sales on the consoles, you're still limited to your console, I suppose. It's not like I can load up a 360 game on them and stuff.
Exactly. I mean,
so
they were actually,
Steam have a permanent leg up there.
They were going out of their way to prove that point at GDC by having people playing freaking System Shock 2 on the new controller on Steam boxes or whatever.
And in the VR, I think they were
and in VR.
I think they said that was happening. I didn't see the video of that, but
that would be insane. That would hurt my brain. Some of the textures in that on the baddies and stuff is so horrible.
Well, they were using System Shock 2 as also an example of there's a sort of remastered version of it, but that's available through the user creation stuff.
That's not official.
No, yeah, people have just done this.
That's cool. Yeah.
Can't think of anything else Valve.
What else is going on at GDC?
Not much.
Some guy at Maxis got fired in the middle of his talk, I heard.
Well, the whole of Maxis got fired.
He was giving a talk about The Sims, development, and then
that
simultaneously the news came out that.
So what happened? Did he get informed mid talk?
No, but it was popping up on people's who were.
Well, he might have been one of the ones who didn't get fired if he was on the Sims team because they kept some of them. Yeah, because obviously they're still releasing shit for Sims 4.
But that was the headline I saw or whatever, or the tweet I saw was like, guy gets fired in the middle of of talk.
Yes. So to summarise, EA have closed Maxis, creators of SimCity, which a lot of people predicted after the last SimCity. Yeah. No. It's like there's the question of where is it the same? You always have to ask, is it the same Maxis these days?
And it hasn't been.
Now Will
Wright since EA bought it.
Yeah, and since EA outright owned it, has it got the same team? Has it got the same work style?
They did a lot of good work on that SimCity. They just fucked up the macro, as in the big stuff. They screwed up. A lot of the detail was not bad.
Wow.
It's the core mechanics.
It was more like a lot of the middle detail. Yeah. Like if you looked at the very small detail, like the actual numbers and stuff like I did, that was bad.
That was fun.
And the big end was bad. But like just the casual building of city and stuff, that was okay. Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, the core mechanics of making it actually kind of work as a game, pretty fucked.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It's a shame. What are they going to do then?
It is a bit of a shitter that they just got shuttered as a result of one bad game.
Well, I won't know about one.
It was one big bad game, but...
The
Sims sells, come on. They may not be great games, and Sims 4 may have been lacking in content, but they still
not happy about Sims 4 that much. That probably contributed.
That must have sold, though.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean... It's like SimCity sold.
Yeah, the Sims 4 only annoyed people because of the classic DLC problem that The Sims created for itself, in that later versions of Sims 3, for instance, came with most of the DLC, and then Sims 4 comes out, and it's like, oh, where are my pools?
Yeah,
why are there no pools in this?
Yeah, but that was in base of all the other Sims games. That's like the Civilization... free scenario where it's like this game doesn't even have the same toolbars as the last games. You can't even do the same things.
Were pools in the first Sims?
Yeah.
No, I don't remember that. I thought Sims 1 was incredibly basic.
They were incredibly expensive. That's probably why you don't remember them.
Oh, yeah. Patience probably didn't last that long.
Exactly.
That's realistic.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, it does some clever things.
I mean, there's been other games. It's basically anything that came out since Maxis purchased. I mean,
when was that?
EA purchased Maxis. I was trying to remember, and I think it must have been like right after Sport, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Because Spore was like the first time they were
yeah.
linking into EA's network, basically.
Because Will Wright fucked off, right?
Yeah.
Immediately after that, right?
As soon as they got bought, basically,
Yeah.
he left, and then it's just been downhill from then on.
Makes sense. Will Wright isn't even making games anymore, is he?
Not I know of.
Yeah, if he is, he's doing it under the radar.
He's not like Peter Molyneux. He's not got some weird...
He's not making games either.
No!
He's just talking about making games.
Yeah.
Has Peter Molyneux ever really made a game?
Well,
Probably some of the early ones.
Apart from the original pop. Yeah, the original Populous, maybe.
Theme Park
Some of
is
the
a
Bullfrog
game.
ones, probably. He had more part of.
Dodger Keeper's a game.
I do wonder if he worked on some of the weirder early Bullfrog stuff, like Fusion.
He did like Magic Carpet and stuff. Do you remember Magic Carpet?
Vaguely, yeah.
So now what we're going to do about
asked.
SimCity? Are we all going to have to get Cities Skylines or
There
some
is-
shit, apparently?
I heard there is another one, like another competitor, that just announced, hey, we're doing stuff. I can't remember what the fuck it was called or anything like that, so this is useless news, but there is a third.
What happened to the license then? The SimCity license?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're just going to hang on to it.
Alright.
And
Yeah,
make
might
City
just-
mobile games.
Yeah, might just give it to a different studio, I'd imagine. Like,
They don't have any... It's like BioWare. That's it.
I imagine getting like some kind of deep storyline embedded in SimCity.
Fucking awesome.
I need to do the loyalty mission with this particular arcology in order to.
They basically had that in SimCity 4. Where you had, like, you moved your actual Sims into a house, and then they actually generated missions where you had to drive vehicles around your city. It's like, that's basically loyalty missions.
Was that the expansion?
That was technically the same.
Yeah.
Well,
What was that called? The
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour, yeah.
Yeah.
SimCity 4
You could
was-
still move them in original SimCity 4. It's just that then they just acted as a barometer for problems. Where it's like, I've been a victim of crime recently, and then you're like, oh, I should probably go to some more police stations.
Oh yeah, I remember that actually. Yeah, there's like a shortcut instead of reading like the big stats or something. You could be like, oh,
Yeah, you just get little alerts
Yeah.
occasionally to tell them that they've moved house again, because that's just what happens in SimCity 4. Churn. And then, oh man, the thing that annoyed me about this Maxis story is when I went and read the comments, and the number of times people would call SimCity 4 SimCity 5. Because other people in the thread were referring to the new SimCity as SimCity 5, and then other people were saying, I remember the last SimCity, it was SimCity 4, except I'm calling it SimCity 5 now, and I'm like, you can only interpret that if you know something that they reference, that tells you that they're talking about SimCity 4, but they've confused it with SimCity 5. It's like, that's helpful.
yeah, this is what happens when
It's like, SimCity 5 is really fucking great! It's like,
what-
no, that was 4. It's 4 that you're talking about, actually.
This is what happens when you don't put a fucking subtitle on your game.
Yep. That's what happens when you do a reboot with just the same name. You fuck everything up. And then people still try to add a number on it anyway, and it gets confusing.
Yeah.
I did see someone also say that they played SimCity 2, which of course they mean 2000, but you know.
Yeah.
Details, people. Details.
The dumbest name was 3000. At least 2000 it was around the year 2000. Well, a bit early.
Yeah, that was just like, because that was only the second one, that was just the operating system. It was like, SimCity 2000.
Yeah.
SimCity for Windows.
Then 3000.
Yeah.
What the hell does that
But they
mean?
did futurize 2000, didn't they? With arcologies and things.
Yeah,
Well,
a
not
little.
that much.
Quite a bit.
Compared to the first game.
Yeah.
It was like the sort of end of the tech tree in SimCity 2000 was about the year 2000, because you started in like 1900 or 1900 if you
Sounds
started
about
from
right.
the oldest.
Still, I don't like to. Even if it wasn't the Maxis, I don't like to see. I don't like to see like famous studios like that die. I don't know.
Well, don't look at EA ever, because that's just what they do.
Yeah.
BioWare's next.
LucasArts already bought the bullet quite a
Yeah.
while back now.
Yeah. I don't know. It just feels like a big deal, doesn't it? When it happens. Boo earns. What else is happening?
That's it.
There's some
That's it. That's all that's happening.
There's some
Nothing else is happening.
There's some non-news, like,
Is there?
We got
What's all
non-news.
non-news?
but like apparently,
Things that didn't happen.
like Insomniac Games, the guys that made Sunset Overdrive, apparently passed up the opportunity to do a reboot of Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Okay.
It's
what does that even mean? It's like, did Microsoft go to them and say, do you want to make it?
But that's what it sounds like, yeah, that Microsoft approached them to say, like, when they approached them about making a game for Xbone, that was what they pitched them, and Somnac were like, no.
They're like, pass.
Yeah, can we do our own thing? It's like, well, sure, come up with something. And they did, and it was great. Not that I think I would mind a new Conker game, because I really like that one.
Oh yeah, that's the problem. Everyone really likes that one. But then it's like, can that actually happen again?
Yeah. Well, what is it too much of the time?
It's not like Banjo-Kazooie where there was already two and they were both good.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why not a third?
Well, Conker is basically a banjo.
Basically.
It's one of those old rare adventure games, isn't it? But it was the most British, I suppose, of all of them.
Yes.
I mean, you've got Liverpudlians and stuff. References that very few people really understand, I suppose.
I don't think weird accents necessarily makes it that unusual.
It's British. Forza Horizon 2 news.
What about it?
They're releasing a free expansion for it. Based on The Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
7.
Fast and Furious 7, yeah.
So not really, I mean, whatever that is, it's not going to be that big a deal, is it? It's going to be like, here's a car.
Well, not apparently. You say that. The interesting thing about this is that it is standalone and free to everyone.
Yeah, so it's just going to be like a demo open world area and a car.
It probably, yeah. It'll probably have Vin Diesel's like super fat modified Charger or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
You got the game, though, didn't you?
I've got Forza Horizon 2. I haven't played it yet, but I've got it. Yeah. So I suppose what the interesting thing about that is like if it's standalone and stuff like that, does it? If you have the game anyway, will it just integrate and make it convenient for you, or will it be you have to skip out and go? I need to go play Horizon Fast and Furious Edition.
Nobody needs to do that.
Nobody needs to play it anyway.
No.
Fair enough. And that's all I've got. That was the end of my interesting news.
The end.
The end.
Any more news from you, Zach?
No.
We've reached the end of news.
News over.
The news section. What you've been playing? Unless we have more random. Is there
We
any
did
kitchen
kind of like
stories?
abort the random section.
Yeah.
You can't force.
There's got to be some
can't
kitchen
force-
story.
Well, the scale filter hasn't been fully done with the kettle recently. It's
Okay.
mysteriously fixed itself.
Now to move on to what you've been playing.
Oh god.
What have you been playing, Rob?
Assassin's Creed 3.
Oh yeah.
Quite a lot of it. But still, and you saw me play some of it earlier as well.
Yeah. I saw you playing it now that you have your new amplifier, which you haven't talked about.
Well, no.
Sort of about.
Yeah. This is...
You can now stream your HDMI straight through
yeah.
to your TV.
Run a cable around my room, so my PC is now hooked up to my telly properly.
So your Steam big picturing, and you're playing Assassin's Creed in awesome graphics on your TV.
1080p, mostly 60 frames. It's cool. It's cool. It's the...
But the game...
But the game, yeah, not so cool. It's just janky as fuck. That's what it is. It's just things constantly don't quite go as you expect, and it's really hard to predict what's going to happen. And I don't know. I don't feel like I'm really playing it like an Assassin's Creed game. It's more like I'm sort of attempting not to make it fuck you over. Is what it is. It's a great name for a game. Don't fuck you over, or not. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You're talking about Assassin's Creed 3?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's a shit game. I don't know. It's
Don't play
You're
this
not
game.
talking about Assassin's Creed 3.
Skip this one.
Well, yeah, I don't really know how to complain about it any more than I did last time, because it is just... it's just problematic. I mean, it looks fine. Graphically, it's alright for what is like a 3-year-old game now. Is it? Yeah, it must be 3 years.
Yeah.
And it looks alright, especially this PC version. Runs fine. But it's just problematic structurally. Like, as I was saying, as I said to Dan earlier today, the only I'd only just discovered that some of that assassin recruit system and the fact that you have to send them on missions and stuff is actually still there, but the game just never bloody tells you that it exists. Like, I had to it's buried in a menu that only appears when you hold a button down, and then you have to push X whilst that hold menu is up, and then it takes you to the assassin guild menu, and then you can send them and do missions to make them level up and get more effective in combat and stuff. But it's like, okay, fine, this is still here, but why have you hidden it away? And am I ever actually going to use my assassin cohorts anyway? As it turns out, I never have. So it's like, there's so much here, and it's all pointless. And like the crafting stuff and the way missions only seem to appear late on in the game, which feels like should have appeared like a good 10 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's weirdly paced and weirdly structured, and it feels like there's too much in it, and they couldn't figure out how to make it all sit together. And that's pretty much Assassin's Creed 3.
Yeah, it's a bit of a... Because I was quite impressed looking at obviously they made it basically into a fully fledged game with the next one, but all the sea stuff.
Sea stuff is fun.
It looks cool, and it's pretty fun. And
yeah, I mean, it's a little... It's
half-baked.
It's half-baked, and it's like there's not a great deal of game to it,
yeah.
If you see what I mean. Just kind of sailing around, stuff ends up in your sights, you shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, there's supposed to be a bit of a dynamic about how the, positioning and stuff like that, and how you correctly do that. And that stuff is... That's, again, it's one of those things the game doesn't really teach you, like, how to position yourself properly. It sort of says, you're sailing into the wind, and it's like, well, it's because we've both turned around to try and get behind each other, but it sort of presents that message on screen. This is a bad thing, because you don't travel as fast. And it's like, well, yeah, sure, but I've got no choice. I need to go this way.
You can tack, can you? Can you tack?
I'm not sure. It's sort of...
Probably not in this kind of uncomplicated video game.
Right.
So you're saying into the wind, you go slow.
Yeah, you don't just get pushed backwards. You just travel slower against the wind, and it's like, but faster with it. That's about it. I mean, the game will throw what it calls rogue winds at you, which ones that will actually steer you out of control slightly. Rogue wind, and then you have to slow down.
Rogue wind.
Yeah. You can't have someone shout rogue wind. It's like by the time you can detect it, you've already been hit by it.
Yeah.
It's not like a wave.
It does pretty much just happen immediately. Like the guy will shout rogue wind when you're already being affected by it.
Have you ever played Sid Meier's Pirates?
I have not.
Mia. Sid Meier?
Mia.
Sid Meier. It's really good. It's quite an old game. So they basically, the remade one, because the original Sid Meier's Pirates is like from the 80s, I think.
Oh, is it?
But Sid Meier's Pirates, whenever they redid it...
I only remember the redo.
It's the redo. And it's super simple, like 3D, but like isometric. You've got your little ship and you're sailing it around the Caribbean, and you have to do like naval maneuvers because it has the wind direction and stuff. So it's like this, but like from a more kind of isometric perspective. It's like a little desktop game, but it's surprisingly absorbing. And you have to do the whole switch to grape shot and go for the.
Yeah. Some of that sounds a little similar to perhaps the design of Ace Patrol. Is that like you were saying?
No, because it's not turn-based. It's real time.
Live. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
So it's more like.
Do it live.
Yeah, more like Assassin's Creed in that sense.
Oh,
weirdly. Yeah, I recommend that game. It's probably like a $5 or less on Steam.
Oh, yeah.
Check it out.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that's what it was. I sort of always assumed Pirates was a bit more of a...
It had like weird mini-games, like a boarding mini-game where you had like a fencing.
That's what I've always seen, yeah.
And it also had like a dancing mini-game for winning the lady, or whatever, winning the heart of the lady in the port or wherever it was. I can't remember. It's a fun game. It's cool. Recommend that one.
Yeah, I only really remember seeing stuff about the fencing. I don't remember a great detail about the actual.
You mostly
the
did
complexity of the sailing.
Yeah, the sailing combat was the most. It wasn't super complex, but it was complex enough to be engaging, which was cool. Like you could definitely screw it up.
Okay.
That's for sure. Yeah,
that's always been Sid Meier's talent, though, isn't it? Like just this sort of deceptively simple top layer games that have the depth and strategy.
Well, that's exactly it. Yeah,
rather than in mechanics.
Yeah.
Cool.
Probably get it on an iPad. Sorry.
Yeah. I haven't actually really been playing a great deal else. I had my crew from Cambridge stay with me last weekend here, and we did play a number of hours of Earth Defense Force 2025. That is a stupid but quite fun.
Is that the one with the giant ants and shit?
Yep. But they're never called ants. They're never called ants. They're never called spiders. They're always referred to as the giant insects.
Right.
No, never just the insects. It's always giant insects. They have to say it in full.
And you can choose to be like an insane flying angel thing that has almost no range. Is that right?
No, that's not strictly true. She can have range if you equip the right guns.
Oh, is that right?
Most of the time, because I was playing as her most of the time, the Wing Rider. You can just affect like plasma rocket launchers. It's like she's quite more interesting actually. I think than the other characters because she has like an energy pool, but it is shared between using your jetpack and your guns.
Right.
So if you fire too much, you're actually draining energy from your jetpack. So you're gonna have to land at some point and use it to recharge. And certain guns don't use your energy until they need to reload, for instance. So there's actually an interesting dynamic about how you manage what you're doing.
Right.
Which I found pretty enjoyable. And also the plasma launcher actually is just creates massive explosions and creates hilarious friendly fire opportunities.
So you were playing this in some kind of local multiplayer?
Yeah, we were playing a split screen co-op.
Cool.
Which is, as I say, it's a lot of fun. It's but you're laughing at it.
Yeah.
The entire time.
Because it's so dumb.
Because, it is super dumb. Like, you'll be in the middle of a mission, and, like, from one of the rear speakers, you'll just hear your shitty Marine cohort start having a conversation about why they got married in the middle of a fight against giant ants.
As you do.
It is the most dumb. And apparently, in the 7 years since the last giant insect incursion, they have exceeded human wisdom. That is a line from the game.
Wow. What, the aliens have exceeded human wisdom?
They never say aliens.
Oh, right.
They never say aliens either. There's like a robot race called the Ravagers.
Okay.
Who always turn up at the same time as the giant insects, and yet the connection is never made that maybe the two are working together, or that the Ravagers are giant insects in just like robot suits or something. It's like everyone on Earth or in the EDF are the dumbest fucking people that have ever saved the planet. And also, no one cares whether you destroy the entire city while you're at it. That stuff still exists as well. Like, just buildings just fall down, highways get destroyed. It looks like garbage and doesn't run very well, but it's quite fun. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievably stupid. So I find it hard not to actually recommend if you want a dumb couch co-op experience. Apparently it's quite long. We got through like 15 or 16 of the missions, and there's like 50. Wow. Or something. It took us like 3 hours to get that far, including spending what I think is a good half an hour on a single mission before we realised we had to shoot something that was spawning all the enemies. Huh. That was an epic slog. That was
hanging around, destroying everything. It's like, come on.
We were on the ropes a number of times on that one. It was quite tense. It's like, we can't waste all this stuff. Yeah, it's a silly bloody game, but it's quite enjoyable. Apparently, there's an HD remade version of this one coming to PS4 this year. I think they call it Earth Defense Force 4.1 in Japan. So whether it will come out here is an unknown. But PS4 version will probably fix the dire frame rate. Let's hope.
PS4 version,
yeah,
so ludicrous.
It's a dumb game, but it's good fun. Mm. I don't really know what else. I think I might. Oh, Beatbuddy. I've been playing more Beatbuddy. I'm on the last level of that now.
There's a video of that.
To come. Yeah, I haven't put it up. I haven't posted it.
On its way.
Yeah, the Beatbuddy. It's kind of cool. It's very charming. But I think the problem that I alluded to on the video, which no one has seen yet, it does hold true, in that I think the levels are a little long. And that it would have benefited from perhaps, sure, they're limited by their soundtrack, I guess. They've only got 6 songs, so there's only 6 levels. But you spend, the levels get longer and longer or more complex for you to deal with. So the last one took me an hour of basically listening to the same song, just with the various bits coming in and out depending on what I'm doing on the level. And it's like, that starts to wear a little thin.
Definitely.
It would have been better if they split their levels up into, say, 15-minute chunks and then cycled around the songs a bit more often, say. Like, they just reuse the environment, so you do each song a couple of times, maybe. Saving one back for, like, a epic end level or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, other than that, structurally, yeah, it's a good fun game. Quite enjoy it. You know, you have to... It's like a puzzle platformer, but without platforms. Because you swim. And it's all underwater for that reason. And it's... Yeah, you know, with some rhythm-based elements to do things. Yeah, it's hard to explain, so check out the video by the time I post it.
Will do.
And that's me!
Zeg! What have you been playing, man?
My traditional start of the talking segment.
It's time for you to wake up.
Yes. Well, I finished Mass Effect 2 and then started it again.
Hooray!
So I've played Mass Effect 2 like one and a third times now, recently. I mean, not in total.
What was your plan with the restart? Are you going full one way or the other?
Yeah, for one way or the other.
So you've gone Renegade now?
Well, I played it through the one that I completed again already. I played it through again basically with my original old save file, so Paragon again.
Right.
And Paragon Infiltrator or whatever.
Right.
And that's kind of, you know, it's the same thing sort of happened in Mass Effect 1 when I was playing that, where it's like both of those games kind of really suck in the early game where you don't have the skills, but then once you do get the skills, it just becomes like quite easy, but also like it feels more like you're actually powerful.
Yeah.
Because like when you get to the end of the Infiltrator in Mass Effect 2, once you've got like maximum cooldown for all your skills and stuff, you're just like cloak, light up a headshot, murder him one shot, uncloak, recloak. Just do that over and over. And also, like, I'm not sure if this is the case for all of the weapons, but for the sniper rifle, and I think probably the shotgun, but I haven't got it yet in my Renegade run. But there's a mission, like the, I guess, second story mission, you get like an advanced version of that. You can choose, basically you find a pile of weapons just in this ship, and you're like, I'm going to pick one of these up, and then it displays your like choice option where it's like you can either basically be able to use one of the other types of weapons. So it's like you could, if as the Infiltrator, I could have picked up an assault rifle and then been able to have an assault rifle instead of just a pistol and a sniper rifle and the SMG. Or you get the much more powerful sniper rifle. Which normally is I think it normally...
Isn't that like locked in the Spectre gear or something? Or?
No, it's not. Normally you can only give that to one of your squad mates. It's like a special squad mate weapon. So giving it through this like storyline event is the only way you can get it.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
So yeah, you get that and it's just insanely powerful. It's just like, just one-shots everything. But then when I've started playing through in Renegade with the Vanguard, with the crazy biotic charge shit, and shotguns, that's sort of the same problem again. It's like at the start of the game, it's like, that's incredibly difficult to actually use, because you'll biotically charge up to someone and then shoot them, and then if there's anyone else there, you're already dead.
Yeah.
But I've started getting over the hump of that, where it's like now I've upgraded biotic charge to maximum, so it's like it's more powerful, so it knocks people back and knocks people over, and it gives me a shield, so I'm a bit more survivable once I come out of it.
Yeah, the shield sounds like a necessity.
Yeah.
But I still haven't got the upgraded shotgun yet, which I think might help again. Mainly because I think it might even be in the first story mission, you instantly get an upgrade to the shotgun from the base shotgun. And so the base shotgun is like really shit. It's got like a really bad spread. And then the second one has like a much tighter spread, so it's more useful at range, but also easier to actually just hit things with. But the trouble with that upgraded shotgun is you only get 3 shots in the clip before you have to reload. And that is like not enough. So I'm constantly like clipping out one, because if you biotic charge in, providing you hit people, you can just like one-shot all the shitty enemies, but then you can only do 3 of those before you're like, well, now I actually have to reload.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been a problem. Hopefully I know there is an advanced shotgun, because you normally you can only give it to the Krogan squad mate.
Oh right. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that's going to be the same as that sniper rifle, where I'll come to that event and that will be the option.
Right.
To get the Uber shotgun. Yeah. So I'm hoping that'll be better. It will at least be more powerful, that's for sure.
When you're doing your charge runs, do you still get the force, or like I was going to say the force run, like sort of like where you get that little meter that runs down, but you run hella fast while you're...
No, it's like a teleport, basically.
Okay, but does that mean that you can still use your crazy run afterwards?
What do you mean crazy?
Or was that something that was only in Mass Effect 1?
Probably, well,
because there was something where you whole day, and instead of like doing the roadie run from Gears of War, you just ran crazy fast, but it was a super limited bar.
No, that wasn't in 1 or 2.
Was that a 3 thing?
I guess that must be a 3 thing.
Yeah,
because you do have a sprint, it's just not a bar. It's like you can sprint for a certain amount of time and then you just get tired.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it was crazy fast. Whatever one I'm thinking of, it was like, because your normal shepherd speed is sort of like doopy-doopy-doo, walking to a fight.
It's like
and you press this button, you're like...
The trouble with the sprint in Mass Effect 2 is because it's using the like classic third-person shooter Gears of War-esque thing. You just stick to cover, really. It's incredibly difficult to actually... It's like if you biotic charge in and then you're like, okay, I've shot the one guy that I've biotic charged to, but now I need to run away and get behind a bit of cover. But so you try and turn and start running and you hold down the run button and you just clip to the nearest bit of cover and then you're completely exposed to all the enemies who just shoot you.
You're just stuck. Right?
Because it's the same button! Of course, because it's the equivalent of the A button.
Yeah.
And that's also weird in the PC controls because you're like... It's the same button for run... interact and click to cover.
Yeah.
So it's like when you're actually walking around the world, you're like, oh, I'm going to talk to this person or interact with him. It's the same button. So I'm just like, well, I've put that on shift, I guess, which just seems really weird because normally like the interact button is E.
Yeah. That's true.
But you can't use E to sprint. That doesn't work.
No, because you need your freaking fingers for the rest of WSAD.
Yeah, so that's kind of weird. But the thing about the biotic charge is like it's actually kind of ludicrously powerful in terms of because it's a sort of awkward thing in Mass Effect 2 where if you don't have the little targeting brackets around the enemy, you can't actually target them.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really awkward, even for just like normal powers and stuff. Where it's like, I want to incinerate that guy, but he's just slightly too far away, so I can look at him and press the incinerate button, but that won't actually hit him. It will just incinerate in his vicinity because it's actually out of range.
Yeah.
So that's annoying. But then with biotic charge, it's sort of the opposite thing, where it's like, once you see those targeting brackets, providing there's a logical path, basically it must work out a logical path for you to get there, like as if you could theoretically just run up to him, it must just do a pathing calculation or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But providing you can get to that person in theory and they have the targeting reticle, you just go. There's like, regardless of height or obstacles, you just like whoop, just teleport straight to them.
That's quite cool.
Which can be useful, where it's like if there's like some of those heavy dudes with rockets and they always spawn at the back, you just go to them and then get into the rear cover and trap the enemies between your other guys and you.
Ah, smart.
Pincer movement.
Yeah.
I suppose it's okay provided other enemies don't spawn.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. If you get trapped in the spawn, it can be problematic. And I'm undecided about whether it's worth like I don't know what the because you get your final special skill that's based on your squad's loyalty skills, and you can pick one of them to have as Shepherd.
Oh yes, yeah.
And I'm not sure whether that would be worth like maybe going for the biotic barrier or something, just so that I can have another layer of defense. But the trouble with that is because in Mass Effect 2 all the skills work on the same cooldown, it doesn't really save you. If you can't have a biotic charge and the biotic charge shield isn't enough, then you're still in cooldown, so you can't just turn on another shield. Because that was what I did in Mass Effect 1, once I got to the later parts of the Vanguard. You don't have the charge, obviously. But it was just like, at the start of every fight, initiate the biotic barrier. And like the cooldown, once you have that leveled up to maximum, the cooldown is less than how long it lasts.
Yeah.
So it's just like, turn it on constantly. Just keep it always on. So by the end of Mass Effect 1, I was just like, I'm just walking around the battlefield because fuck all can hurt me and I'll just shotgun you in your face.
Awesome.
So yeah, maybe I'll get through that again. But I haven't been feeling well enough to play that in the last few days because that's something I was finding in Mass Effect 2. It's like, for some reason, that one just makes me feel weird after a while if I play it too much. It's something to do with that third-person view and, like, the camera jiggle, I guess.
Well, there is a sort of a woozy feel to how Mass Effect moves.
Yeah.
Like, nothing... Maybe it's just the shepherd run. For me.
Yeah,
It's
well, it's because the camera really does like follow
Yeah.
that motion a bit.
And when you push A to do the run the little faster thing, because I think there were bits of Mass Effect 1 at least where you could hold A, and I'm pretty sure your run speed didn't actually get
Yeah, it just
faster. It
moves
just
the
zooms
camera.
the camera a little.
It was dumb.
Yeah, that was dumb.
At least that's one thing that is different in Mass Effect 2. It's like even out of combat, you can run slightly faster,
Yeah.
and the animation looks really dumb because Shepard's slightly faster run animation is like really extreme arm movement. So yeah, that was Mass Effect 2. Gonna maybe get through that again. I mean, I played.
So one less.
Yes, I didn't hear that very much. I guess I didn't really take Miranda that much because fuck Miranda.
Have they seen you though?
And yes, they have in fact seen us.
Seen us.
Do you still get they've seen us if you're playing as
Female shepherds. I can't remember. Possibly. I guess I don't notice as much
Are
because
you playing as female for which one?
for Renegade now.
For Renegade.
Obviously, because that was
Yeah,
I'd make another make that second save. Might as well make it the opposite
Exactly.
in all cases.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I got to the end boss again in Paragon, that thing is still dumb, obviously.
Yeah, of course it is.
But I was reading a fact and basically make sure I was getting through everything in like an optimal way. But when it came to the last boss, I was like, oh, you can just nuke it. If you use the nuke launcher, that ridiculous heavy weapon,
Right.
which is insanely ridiculously overpowered, it's like by the time you get to the end of the game, your upgrades give you nearly two full shots. Because
Right.
normally you only get one, and then it's like, oh, you only have 50% ammo, you can't fire again, because that's just how this gun works.
Yeah.
But if you have it fully upgraded, you get nearly a second shot, and then in that one specific fight, the other enemies that spawn will occasionally drop heavy weapon ammo.
Cool.
So you can get enough quite easily to do a second shot, and then if you just aim at it anywhere, it's got 3 different weak points where it's like the eyes and then the thing in the chest.
Yeah.
But if you just aim anywhere at it and the nuke hits it, it does like practically half its health bar in one shot.
Nice.
So you just shoot it twice and then you're done. It's much easier.
Sweet.
Fuck that thing.
Cup tips.
The Terminator of crapness.
Although I did miss the first shot, so I had to. It was really dumb. I was like, I've got this, and then it just like, whee, and it just flies into the distance. It doesn't even explode, it just like, the projectile disappears at some point.
It just clips through the walls.
Yeah. I was like, well, that sucked.
They hadn't put a collision plane back there.
I didn't even know that was possible. I didn't really even know that nuke launcher was a projectile. I just thought it was like, just like creating the explosion where you're looking.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, those heavy weapons are ridiculous. I actually used the arc launcher, the like, it's technically DLC, but it's one of the free DLCs.
Right.
I use that most of the time.
Oh yeah, I used that quite a
Because
bit.
it just chains. It's great for clearing out large groups of enemies.
Yeah.
You just chain. But then, when do you ever remember to do that is the trouble. It's the classic heavy weapon issue, because it's like, I need to save this ammo in case there's something important that I need to shoot later on.
Yeah, I very rarely used it. That was true of all of them. I think I only used my heavies when the big sort of...
Well, yeah, the
mech
Scions
things
and
came up.
the really huge ones.
Yeah.
If you know there's a Praetorian coming, you
yes,
basically want the collector beam for that, though.
Oh, the first time you fight the Praetorian
Is after you pick up the collector beam.
Yeah, and it's
And then you discover that the collector beam is in fact pretty much the perfect that weapon.
I remember that fight being a real ass though.
Yeah. Well, all those kinds of fights in Mass Effect 2 are ass, because it's just like, you can stay in cover and pound on it, but it has so much health, eventually you're going to have to move, and then it's incredibly difficult to not die in that transition.
Yeah, that was...
Because they just walk up to you.
That was my problem.
That's where being an infiltrator is handy, of course, because then you just cloak. And you just run away.
Is that mission where you see Ashley again with...
Or Kaiden, yeah.
Or Kaiden, or whoever
Yeah.
Sort of orange town.
Space Nazi.
I remember it being kind of orangey brownies.
Well, it has the collector shit in it.
Yeah.
With their stasis fields and all that crap.
No, Space Racist, that's what Ashley is, isn't she?
She's not alive in either of my saves, because fuck her.
She's a racist.
Is she?
Yeah, she's space racist.
She's space racist.
I don't remember that.
That was something that really annoyed me when I was playing through Mass Effect 1, is that, like, a lot of the Renegade options make you a space racist.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, you have to read, like, the interpretive text and be like, am I going to be a complete bastard and be like, humans! And it's just like, oh, I don't want to say that. It's the same when you're talking to Cerberus in Mass Effect 2, where it's like, you don't want to agree with Cerberus too much, because then you seem like a horrible space racist.
Yeah, pretty much. So you're going for renegade, not racist.
Yeah, exactly.
I see.
Fine line to tread, apparently, because normally renegade just makes you racist.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of that. Human interests first. Fuck all you guys.
It's dumb.
The
That's
content is
just
so
like
boring,
not
though.
even. It's just like that's not even a. That should have been like another layer of choice.
Evil. Yeah.
Oh, what you have? You have like the good evil system, and then you have the
Racist and non-racist.
yeah, tolerant racist.
Yeah, that would have been better.
And then you're in dangerous ground because then I suppose you have to start layering on religious layers, and then
Well, most of the time in Mass Effect 2, there's not any worry about religion because apart from the Hanar, that's like
Yeah.
the only case.
yeah, that's true.
Most of the other races don't give a shit about religion at this point, conveniently.
Yeah, they sort of sidestep that.
So yeah, I played some of that. Then I played, well, not then. I guess most recently I played a small amount of Space Engineers because I don't know there's been updates. I went in there to fuck around with it and see how things are going there. Oh, and also there was an awesome mod. There was an awesome mod that I saw, which is exactly what I wanted, and I can see absolutely no reason why this won't end up in the game proper at some point. So I really hope that it does. But a couple of patches back in the actual game, they added the ability in creative mode to sculpt asteroids, like edit the voxels basically, so you can just like paint shapes and stuff. So in this mod that came out a few weeks later, they basically they ported that back into survival mode as a tool, and obviously it uses like. On the plus side, it uses the boring, shitty waste stone that you have tons of that has no other reason to exist. But you take the shitty stone, you grind it into gravel, and then you convert the gravel into concrete mix, and then basically you just have this tool, and you point at the asteroid, and it shows you a little type cursor, and then you just go and like paint voxels back into the world. So it's like super awesome. Like I can make my asteroid base actually have straight walls and like encase my door of this base into the actual rock, so it looks awesome and semi-natural.
You could make the Borg cube.
Yes, exactly. Or you can just, well, I guess you can't make an asteroid from scratch. You actually have to start
with a kernel.
Yeah,
or
you have to point at an asteroid in order to be able to place it. But so yeah, that's pretty cool. Kind of ridiculously time consuming though.
Well, getting perfectly straight edges on your.
Well, it's not difficult to do. It's just like you're placing each of these individual voxel points, and like if you compare it to the size of, say, a normal cube of space station, it's like you're placing 5 voxel points per one cube. So you're like, And also, because it's this mod, the mod maker guy couldn't properly link it into the controls, so you can't click. He couldn't work out how to make it work with the mouse button, but also without like overwriting the mouse button controls for everything else the mouse button does.
Sure.
So what you actually have to do is use your light button, the button that you normally use to turn on and off your suit lights, to trigger it. So I was just like, well, fuck it, I'll just bind that onto my side mouse button.
Okay.
And I'll just use that.
Weird.
So that's pretty cool. And also in mods, I got the only other mod I've ever downloaded is a pointless skybox, because it's a skybox from Eve.
Oh, really?
So I'm like, well, I guess I might as well have these cool looking nebulas.
What's wrong with the existing sky?
It's really shit. It's like, it's not a very good skybox.
Is it
really.
super low detail or?
It's just kind of boring. It's like, well, A, it's boring, and B, it's not a particularly great representation of a space field or whatever. So I have these fancy nebulas all over the place.
Galent, naturally.
Yep. You could get one of the other ones. You don't want... The Galent is like useful because generally Galent space is much brighter than all the other ones. Like they have like bright green and like yellow nebulas, so it works against the background. It makes it easier to see asteroids as well.
Oh yeah.
Because you're like, oh look, there's an asteroid over there. So yeah, I played some of that.
Space Engineers.
And then I also...
Isn't there like a PS4 version of that coming or something?
Well, it's already out on Xbox One, I think.
Oh, is it?
Even though the actual game isn't out, arguably. Which is weird.
That is weird.
I wonder, like, if the patches are going to make it into that or whatever. Like, how are they going to patch that? If they're just going to wait and then do, like, a big one at some point. Or if they're even going to bother. If they even care.
Yeah. If it's just like, shit, we'll just shit one out, we'll make some money on this.
Because it is just, like, a creative toolbox most of the time. It's not like survival is that much of a game. It's just like a Minecraft clone at that point. It's just like, you place blocks, make fancy things.
Need to earn your resources through the environment still, but
Yeah.
that's pretty much all it is.
So yeah, and then the last thing that I played, god damn it, was I finally decided to go back into Dwarf Fortress.
Of course it is.
What?
Because I was talking about it.
Well,
Because of the
because
poetry
we talked
shit.
about it, yes,
Yeah.
that helped. But also because,
The poetical forms.
well, I hadn't been in for quite a while, and this didn't happen before I started playing it again, but one of the things that happened very quickly after I started playing it again is I realised that one of the things that had always super annoyed me about the military system, one of the things that had annoyed me about it was that my fucking military never put on the right armour.
Right.
They always end up with like one boot for some reason, and I was just like, "Why? What are you doing?" Or like the alternative version was like some guys would for some reason have two gauntlets on one hand. I'm like, that's not right either.
Yeah.
But so I thought that was a bug, but it turns out it's just like it's actually a miscommunication where like when you're assigning military uniform. When you go into the list of what armor you want people to wear, it's like, oh, wear a chainmail shirt, wear armored leggings, wear a helmet. But when it comes to like boots and gauntlets, you're like, wear a boot. But like wear a boot doesn't actually mean wear a boot; it means wear two boots. So
Right.
if you put that command in there twice, like you'd think, where you're like, wear a boot, wear another boot. That actually tells them to wear 4 boots, and then it just messes everything up. That's why they end up with like 1 or 2 on the same hand and stuff.
Okay, so you just have to say, wear a boot.
Yeah, wear a boot.
And it actually handles
Rather
it
than
correctly.
a pair of boots.
Yes, it works it out from there.
Most RPG items have boots as
Well,
one item.
It's the same problem because it's like when you're making boots, you put like you queue up the job to make a high boot, and that makes a pair out of 1 action and 1 bar of metal. It makes a pair.
Makes sense.
But then that is still two items technically, and those 2 items can become separated. So like one guy could wear one of those boots, and then another one from another pair.
It's presumably because you ordered them, even though they're produced as a pair, they modelled individually.
Yeah, they're still attached to the individual body parts or whatever.
So they still need to be treated as a boot.
You
I
could
guess,
still get your
mechanically.
one hand cut off.
Yeah.
That happened to one of my dwarfs pretty quickly as well. So I started playing it, and it's just like my main problem with Dwarf Fortress is I never get into military fast enough. So it always comes that there's like some goblin ambush or some big enemy that turns up, and I just don't have any military, and I'm like, well, fuck it, dogpile. Because I never get there in time. And then, so yeah, that happened to me again in this case, and I was like, well, my woodcutter, he has an axe, I guess, and he happened to be in the vicinity, and I'm like, well, fucking charge it. And oh no, actually, I guess the woodcutter did okay. It was just like one of the other guys in the vicinity who also piled on got one of his hands torn off immediately. Although luckily now, because of the like massive rewrite to the medical system, that's not actually a terrible. It's not. It's like it's an actually recoverable injury. He's not
Really?
completely crippled. He can still operate. He can still. I think he's the brewer and the cook, so he can still cook and brew with one hand.
Well, is that more of an update to the occupational system? Like, they allow more one-handed jobs?
Well,
or-
sort of. It's just because I mean, I guess technically, even in the old system, that would still have worked. It's just that probably it would have been an issue of like constant pain and stuff. It seems to handle that better now.
Okay.
Like once they've recovered, it's like they're not completely passing out all the time from pain.
Right. That's a bit of a problem.
So yeah, that's the main. But then the other trouble with that. One of the other things that got added since I last played was basically vampires. And vampires are a fucking giant problem. Like, basically in every Dwarf Fortress game that you play nowadays, you have to be prepared to deal with vampires at some point, because inevitably at least one of your immigrant dwarfs will be a vampire in disguise. And then they just fucking kill your dwarfs. It's like, if you don't notice, it's just like, oh look, this guy was found dead.
So,
Mysteriously. Or actually, it's really obvious because it's like, this guy was found dead, drained of blood. It's like, oh, okay then. I think there might be a vampire around here somewhere. But then the trouble with that is there's not really shit all you can do about it. Because it's like, whenever it detects murder, where like the justice system, there's a special page for justice, and it's like, this guy was murdered. And then because it's a vampire and it's like, if they don't get caught in the act, it doesn't know who did it. So it's like you can go to the crime and you can say, accuse someone, and then you can go through your list and just like accuse a random person or whatever. Or if you know who the vampire is, you can actually just go there and be like, it was that guy. I know that because I've got this extra information and I've worked it out. Or I saw him do it, but none of the actual dwarves did.
Okay.
But the trouble with that is that apparently the punishment for murder in dwarf society is not very stringent.
Right.
It's like, oh, you get chained up for like 120 days. And then you just go again, and then the vampire goes and kills some more people.
Oh, God.
So you can't change that.
Yeah, so there's not really any way, even though you know he's a vampire, and you've seen him kill people, and you can accuse him specifically of these murderous crimes.
So you can't tell a dwarf just to go, say, hey, you, go kill this guy.
No. Well,
you'll then have 120 days of a murder charge. But...
Well, I don't know if you can do friendly fire nowadays with the modern military system. I don't know if you can target your own dwarves. I was thinking about maybe if you stationed one of your military squads, like, in the sleeping chambers, so they actually saw... If you catch them in the act, normally it just, like, correctly... your other dwarves just correctly attribute the murder.
Sure.
It's like they accuse the right person. But I was wondering if it's a military unit that's there, whether they just instantly aggro or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That would be helpful. So
I doubt it.
Yeah, probably not. So in the end, I was thinking up solutions where it's like, well, if he does it again, and I can, like, accuse him of the crime and get him thrown in jail, I'll just build a specific jail cell for this purpose that is the only jail cell, so he'll definitely go there, and then just wall it in.
I see.
Just be like, fuck that guy.
That makes sense.
Although the trouble with that is, of course, that vampires, like, are basically immortal. It's like, they don't need to eat or sleep or drink.
Well, they don't even need the blood.
No, technically they don't. It just makes them, like, worse. It's the equivalent of, like, if dwarfs don't have booze, they get shitty at their jobs. So for vampires, it's the same with blood. They don't technically need it, they just become bad.
Right.
So I was just like, well, I could just wall him in. But then I realised the much, much easier solution, which was conveniently meshed in with my military problems, where I was just like, when he's not doing his vampire thing and drinking blood, he still acts like a normal dwarf. That means I can just put him in the military. So send him to the front. He can just stand there and take on whatever the fuck comes, and if he dies, well, okay then, he's dead now. That solves two problems. And he died on the first enemy that turned up, so I was like, problem solved.
It's one way of getting rid of killers.
Yep.
Just forced conscription.
It's a shame though, because he actually, being as he is a vampire, I guess one of the indicators of that is he has really good skills. Like, he has a lot of skills and they're high leveled.
So how come he died straight away?
Because I didn't give him any weapons or armour.
Oh.
Because I was trying to solve that problem more than the military problem.
Right.
I didn't want him to be good at military. I wanted him to die so he could stop killing all my other dudes.
Right, makes sense.
So can't the vampires, like, turn other people, and so you can just have a vampire population?
Well, that would probably be really bad if they let them do that. I assume there is a way for that to happen, because otherwise, I mean, it must happen during World Gen. Like, there must be a way. I presume it's to do with, like, presumably the way he's programmed it is they must have, like, two modes, where it's, like, the feeding mode where you're just getting the blood but not doing anything, and the, like, conversion mode.
Yeah. Because it's like, then could you set up a system where your vampires are your main guys, but then you're farming other dwarves?
Well, it was the other thing that I was thinking about doing with him, instead of just sealing him in a cell. I was thinking of using him as like a literal watchtower, like seal him in a cell, but seal him in a cell that has like fortifications, so he can see out at my entrance. So whenever there's an ambush, they'll have to walk past him, and he'll see them.
Yeah. The immortal watchguard.
Yep, exactly.
Behind all.
Yeah, basically. Apart from a bastard.
You probably just won't raise the alarm, will you? Be like, hey guys,
come on in.
There's some guys selling some real sweet onions down here. Let them in, right? These are the best onions. I'm telling you. I'm totally not a vampire.
The other annoying thing about it was I was taking on a map where garlic grew naturally, and I was like, he shouldn't be able to live here.
Yeah.
That's something else I hadn't seen since the last time I played Dwarf Fortress, was the massive update to like plants and trees. It's like now trees are actually like multi-square constructions rather than just a single icon.
Oh, cool.
So they have a trunk and then they have leaves and shit.
And roots and stuff.
Yeah, and roots. And you can actually see like the transition of the seasons. You can actually see it happening with the trees, where it's like, oh look, they've become flowers, and now all the cherry blossom is falling and making the ground white in clouds, and then like all the leaves fall off and the cherries are on the floor, and you can pick them up and harvest them.
In Askia.
Yep. Ridiculous. And garlic growing out of the ground. Harvest it.
How's the garlic?
You can build step ladders if you want to harvest fruit while it's still on the tree. You can assign step ladders to your harvesting dwarves. Be like, go out there and climb up that tree and get all those cherries and shit. Cherries and apples and chestnuts and hazelnuts.
And shit.
Yep, and all that shit. So yeah, that's still ridiculous.
That's still insanely detailed.
Yep.
For no reason.
So yeah, those fucking vampires are the big problem. Also, I think it's sort of been a problem of that rewrite where he introduced vampires and necromancers and the massive rewrite to all the forgotten beasts and stuff, is that like the history of the world doesn't advance correctly any longer. Because it used to be that when you generated a new world, there's a setting for what percentage of mega beasts have to be dead before it stops. Because basically it always wants to have some left for the challenge. But you can configure it or whatever. Yeah. And that's normally set to like 80%. So it's like 80% of the forgotten beasts have been killed. That never happens any longer. It almost always gets to year like 10,050, which is like the date cut off. Not 10,000, 1,050. 10,000 would take forever. Gets to year 1,050 and then stops, but it's still in the age of myth, which means like more than 75% of the mega beasts are still alive.
Oh, geez.
Which really sucks when you're playing Fortress mode, because it's like every month, here comes a new Mega Beast, or like a Cyclops, or an Etin, or something. It's like, that's really annoying. Especially when you don't have a military.
So something about the way the beasts...
They're just like more survivable,
yeah.
I guess. It's to do with like the new combat system and all that. It's much harder to kill a Mega Beast now, because they're just big. And that matters more. To do with like stabbing and...
Shouldn't the beasts
attacks.
like fight each other, and maybe that's the problem? Or...
You'd think that would help, but that probably doesn't kill very many of them, really.
Well, they're just injured.
Yeah, and then retreat.
But then you'd have to fight injured ones. Maybe.
Maybe.
Like, permanently injured, like one-handed Etin.
Yes, one-handed guy.
Sasquatch with no legs. Just crawling towards your fortress.
Yeah, that could definitely happen.
That'd be amazing.
I did have a problem when, after I'd fought this, I think it was an Etin and a Cyclops that I had on 2 consecutive months where that guy got his hand ripped off by one of them. After I'd fought them, I was just, like, dumping everything into a big pile. But now you get a lot of job interruptions where it's like, this dwarf interrupted his job, horrified. Like, basically, if you're seeing a giant pile of Etin and Cyclops corpse, they could actually be horrified by that enough that it prevents them from doing whatever they were doing.
No, right.
So I was like, I better put those corpses, like, somewhere else, like, out of the way, where no one will see them.
Does that mean that the people doing the corpse moving could just...
Yeah, they could, like, walk... They would get assigned the job to move the corpse, walk up there and be like, fuck! And then just leave.
Nice.
That's so good. The Assassin's Creed needs to learn the capability for their crowd dynamics to just walk up to shit and go, fuck! Fuck this shit.
Yep. That's a weird message. Horrified.
Horrified.
And that obviously goes into their forts. The fort screen is, like, a bit more explicit now. Like, the...
No, really?
Well, the actual, like, positive and negative words are, like, highlighted. So it makes it easier to see, where it's like, this guy is happy on average because more of his forts are happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's helpful. That's another way you can detect vampires. If you go and look in their forts and preferences, you'll see where it normally says they need booze to get through the working day, and provided you have booze, there's always never a message there that says they haven't had any booze recently. Whereas vampires, because they need blood, even if they've been drinking booze recently, that doesn't get rid of that message. Where they're like, he needs drink to get through the working day. It's like, yeah, but not the drink that I'm making.
You can spot them that way.
Yeah. So there you go, Dwarf Fortress.
Game is amazing.
Yeah. Apparently there's been quite a lot of... I mentioned this last time, but I didn't actually know until I'd read about it. But apparently there's been quite a lot of advancement in like the visualizers and stuff.
That's what I heard.
Like they can run more simultaneously now. And there's basically launchers and shit that will manage that for you. Like launch everything at the same time and configure your windows. So it's like, here's the half with the visualizer and here's the half with the actual game. Fancy shit like that. But fuck that noise, I'll just do it myself. I'll just play hardcore. I'll use my tile set that I still have.
Do you use any kind of tile set? Or...
No, all I have is I made a tile set that's basically a 150% size of the default.
Just so you can see a bit better.
Yeah, it's because it's like you can do it through configuration. You can just have it multiply it by 2, but you can only do like full digit
Increments,
steps,
right.
and 2 is too big. So I was like, well, I need a 1.5, so I just made it myself. I just went into Photoshop, took the original file, scaled it up by 1.5, and then pixel edited it to make it look a bit smoother. And I was like, there's my tile set. I'm done. That's good enough. All I need is letters and icons. Don't need any of these fancy graphics.
It would take fancy graphics to get me a play up and a proper interface.
Yeah, I've been getting back into the interface. There's every time there's a new bit, it's like, here's another layer of ridiculous. The military menu is just completely insane. It's like, it's got tabs. So you go, hit the military menu and it brings up this full screen thing, and then it's like, here's all the different letters you have to go to each of the individual tabs of the military menu, and then you're scrolling up and down lists in each of these menus.
Yeah.
It's a pain.
How many freaking tabs are there in the military view?
It's like 7. It's like, assign the squad's uniform, assign the squad's actual weaponry, and then like assign their schedule, and then make new schedules so you can assign different squads to different schedules.
How, knowing nothing about how this game was made,
Yeah.
how difficult do you reckon it would be, like, say the guy got approached by an actual publisher or development studio to say, look, we love what you're doing, but this would be better if we made it into a more accessible game.
I think he probably already has been several times.
It's like, you can carry on doing your thing, but can we use what you have as a basis and we'll pay you shit tons of money?
Well, that's why
Like,
he always says that he's never made any attempts to make the interface better, is because he's always worried about like making more work in the future, where it's just like, if I make the interface better now, when I add something in the future, I'll have to make the interface better again, because I'll have to go back and rewrite the whole interface. So I might as well wait until I've added everything and then do the interface for everything.
sure.
Which is great if
Which
you're
is
ever
never
going
gonna-
to get to that point.
No, it's never going to happen. Because you keep changing everything and rewriting.
Has he got a big list? What's the next on his list?
I don't know what's next. Well, I mean, he's finished poetry and now he's working on dancing. So we're still in that part of the mechanism.
The arts.
Yes.
How are you gonna, is dancing going to be like? It's going to describe a choreography or something?
Presumably.
Yeah.
He also did...
Take a step forward, take a step back, slide to the left, slide to the right.
Yeah,
Touch how real smooth.
You take your left hand, you take your right hand.
Yeah,
Put both
put
hands
hand
in
in
your
your
head.
head, and then you do the migraine skag.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that's what that's going to turn out like.
Then you do the migraine skag.
But then the guy's got his arm cut off, can't do them.
Yeah, exactly.
Steps.
Or he could technically take his right hand with his left hand.
Yeah.
If he can find it, wherever it went.
You take your left stomp, you take your right hand. Put both stumps on your head.
His hand's somewhere in that pile of bodies with the edit and the
Go
other
and find it.
It's just like pull that out of the way. I wonder if the hand horrifies. I wonder if it's like a probably because it's Dwarf Fortress. I would imagine that's probably like a constitution or something, like a rating of your dwarves, so it's like how easily horrified they are by corpses
Or body parts.
Yeah. I have noticed that there's one of my starting 7 dwarfs is incredibly weak. You can tell because he carries shit really slowly compared to everyone else.
Do the body parts and corpses rot, or do they just stay there forever?
They rot, and then you get a skeleton.
Alright.
And then that stays there forever, provided you don't use it for anything. Can't use dwarf body parts, though. Apart from in certain very specific cases.
You can get the skeleton of the part of the hat.
Yeah, it's like, here's the hand skeleton. A fully consistent hand skeleton, somehow. It hasn't fallen apart at all.
Hand bones.
Yep.
Dem bones, hand bones.
So yeah, that's that. And that's it. I haven't played any Guild Wars. Things I haven't been playing. It's because there hasn't been any patches happening. Now that they're waiting for the next, whatever you call it,
Great
expansion.
Sweet. That's Zach.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, I suppose we played some Team Fortress at one point.
Say that about any time ever.
Yeah.
I suppose I did play more of that one than we played at some point.
Nothing's changed.
I've been playing Homeworld Remastered.
Yeah, I noticed that.
It's been my gaming of late.
What is that like?
It's good. It's Homeworld. Have you
Some
played
people
Homeworld?
say it's bad.
Probably fans of the originals.
some people say the remaster of 1 doesn't have the same...
Well,
because it's more like 2.
Yeah,
more
they
like
used
2.
the engine for 2.
So it doesn't have the correct, like, manoeuvring options and stuff to properly arrange your fleets. Like
the kind of formation stuff isn't that great, but I don't remember it from 1. I don't think I played 1.
You don't care.
Yeah, so I don't really care.
You don't know what you're missing.
Yeah. Well, I think the formation's cool, but then they get split up really easily. Like it's fine when the initial attack run or whatever. Like, it's probably worth putting them in wall formation or putting them in, like, sphere formation if they're guarding something.
Well, that kind of thing just helps you manage the 3D space initially.
Yeah, a little
it's like,
bit.
you want everyone to be in range, so if provided you can make them all in a line, that'll help.
Yeah.
The pack has the classic versions as well, though, right?
It does, yeah.
Do they run okay on modern machines?
Oh, I didn't even click on them.
Okay.
The new ones look so good.
As long as they made the old ones, like, run on modern machines.
Oh, they did,
then
yeah.
surely, like...
They can go and play the old
can
ones.
just
play
Not sure that's how that works.
No, I'm sure not.
Yeah.
You want to play it in nice-looking mode.
Oh, no, wait, you'll have to come back to me. I just thought of something.
Okay.
I thought of 2 things, actually.
Oh, well.
Come back to me. Talk about Homeworld.
Talk about Homeworld some more.
So I'm playing Homeworld 1, the remastered version, which is more like Homeworld 2, as you say.
Yeah.
But I'd never played that one because I'd only ever played 2. And I'd forgotten, like, I think when I played 2 before, I got, like, stuck at one point. I don't think there's a difficulty select on any of these games.
Well, right.
I think that was true of a lot of games I played of that era. They'd, like, get, like, a few missions in and then get to a point where it's just like, wow, this is crazy hard.
Well, it's like RTS has never really had difficulty in the old days because it wasn't really something that you could do.
No,
very
that
easily.
you could change, yeah. But
I
yeah.
mean, I know it's not the same, but I had that problem with both the Battlezone games. 1 and 2, you'd get like a few minutes and you'd think, this is fantastic, I'm having a great time, and then you'd suddenly get to a mission where it was impossibly difficult.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, wow, this difficulty spike is insurmountable for someone like me. And it's like, you just go off the rest of the game.
Man, I've forgotten about Battlezone 2. That's crazy.
They were great games.
Yeah.
But, again, you'd just get to that difficulty spike and you'd be like, oh, fuck this shit.
But it's like that happened in Team Total Annihilation.
TA wasn't so bad.
Well, there was a couple of... There was that mission where you start... It was the first mission where you teleport onto one of the oceanic planets and you start on a tiny island and there's enemy ships start patrolling around your tiny island, and just because they're ships, they have ridiculous... They can shoot your whole island and they have ship guns. That was a real pain in the ass. You had to, like, super rush it to be able to actually get defences up in time.
I had that problem in the first C&C game.
Right, yeah.
That just was a...
You reach a point.
Yeah, there were definite spikes in that. Red Alert wasn't so bad for that. I thought Red Alert got the curve much smoother. But yeah, you're right. It's just a sort of classic RTS campaign problem that I'm not sure anyone ever really, or you ever could solve, I suppose. Unless you had branching paths and that kind of stuff. Maybe Total War does it because it's not so...
yeah, well, that has a more easy way to control difficulty, where it's like, because the armies are like huge numbers, they can just be like, yeah, we can just shuffle those numbers down a bit, make the enemies have slightly fewer.
Adjust them. So I don't know how well the Homeworld missions are actually ported to the Homeworld 2 engine or whatever, because I can't really say, but they seem to be pretty close from what I can tell. And I'd forgotten that Homeworld actually has sort of a cool story going on, which is quite nice, because usually a lot of RTS stories are pretty generic.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, this is quite nice. But I have a lot of problem with like the mission structure being like, it'll be like, okay, here's your objective, do this thing, like send a probe out here. And what you really need to do is don't do that until you've built up your forces, for example.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff like that where it's like, you really need to play the mission twice and know ahead of time what's going to happen. Which is annoying. I think it's like old game design.
That is quite classic. Oh, we're going to surprise you with this, and then it's about you dealing with it. But then, of course, no one does.
No one does, exactly, because they've like pre-thought out, and it's actually quite hard to get it right the first time, often. So like, but I haven't been worrying about that. I've been like, well, I know this is going to happen, so I'm going to...
Okay, sure.
And maybe I can preempt it by like ignoring what they tell me to do immediately when I warp in and like getting a bit more set up for things. So that was my initial impression, because that happens in like the first mission. You're like, they're like, go over here and check out this thing, and you're like, oh shit, I haven't got any forces. This is like not good.
I sent just a scout because they told me to just go here, so I went there, and it's like, oh shit.
I mean, generally, I think it seems to be quite good to see how much you can get away with mining without triggering any kind of vent.
That's another classic maneuver.
And actually, I quite like the actual mining is actually quite fun to watch, unlike in all other RTSs. Like, the way they maneuver is pretty cool, and the way they always, like, perfectly maneuver and, like, connect to the refinery or to the mothership, and the way they, and actually mine... I don't know what happened in the original, but the asteroids, like, when they're mining the asteroid, it kind of glows with cracks and fissures. There's a light coming out of the asteroid. It looks super cool. In fact, generally, it looks super awesome, especially on my big screen. The interface is the Homeworld 2 interface, and it's pretty good. In fact, no, I think looking at screenshots of Homeworld 2, it's actually it's even more pared down, but it gives you all the same information, so it's nicer. And you can actually scale it, but you can't scale it down. You can scale it up.
Oh, okay.
Which is probably worth it on a 4K screen.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's some things like. Maybe there is an option, but I can't. What I would like is a way to, because you can make control groups, just like in Command and Conquer or whatever, where you control 2, control 3, whatever, and you basically have to use that. But I would like a way to see, like, diagrammatically see all my ships and types and be able to select all the ships of one class, all the ships of one type.
Okay, yeah.
And you can't do that. You have to, like, manually find them and assign them to a group. So I have to remember, my fighters are on 1 and my corvettes.
Was that one of the things Halo Wars did with its controls?
Probably all units.
Other than going, units, you could bring up a menu and say pick all the war.
Yeah,
it's a weird example to choose, but there's other games that have done it.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, like that RTS that we played.
Oh, World and Conflict. Yeah, I suppose that does do it. Yeah.
You could just double click on the icon for a type of unit and it selects them all. Yeah. Not that there's that many units.
That's what I mean.
You
only had a few units to deal with in World of Conflict, didn't you? You didn't have like a horde of stuff.
So yeah, that would be useful. Maybe you can double click. I need to look. But the actual little logos for the ships, when you select them, you get little icons for them, and they have quite a good symbolic thing for the different classes. Like fighters are triangles, corvettes are squares, whatever.
Okay,
going up. So that's quite good because you can see that at a glance. Like because it has configuration which you can cycle through using tab, which is like how far away something needs to be before it like puts the little icon around it. So when you're on the default one, when you're up close, you can just see the thing. But when you zoom out, or if you see them in the distance, it's got the like color with
swap to the icon.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's around, so you can still actually see the ship. Sure. But it's just like you get that. That's quite good.
Oh, I see. So it's not actually like a little dot or something.
Them.
It's like the old FIFA style. Player selector type thing.
So it's around them. So that's pretty cool. But when you actually have them selected, it shows what you've got selected in the bottom left hand corner. But those are like side-on like drawings of the ships, and they're not necessarily that distinctive, which is slightly annoying. But maybe you can just double-click and select all of that type. That would be really useful, because currently I'm like making a group for all fighters, and then if I want 2 groups of fighters, I'm making another group each. Okay. So I've got one that so you can overlap groups. Yeah. So I've got one that includes all of them, and one that includes the part that I'm sending to the left and the part that I'm sending to the right or up. And I am actually using the 3D space a little bit. It does actually work. Like you go up above and then they don't see you and you can come in behind them and stuff. Because they do have some kind of range of detection and stuff.
Oh, sure. So.
And actually the resources and stuff is spread somewhat in 3D space. There is some stuff surprisingly high up relative to the plane of where you warp in, which is kind of cool. So you do end up going in crazy diagonal lines all over the place, which looks super cool. So yeah, I'm not doing too badly. I've discovered that the kind of scavenger ships that like it takes like a couple of them to grab an enemy ship and like take it to your ship and divert it to your side.
Oh, right.
But they're quite OP, I think. They get destroyed quite easily, but if you manage to get them to sneak up basically behind, you can like grab.
Once grabbed, are they like effectively like incapacitated? Or...
Yeah, pretty much. It doesn't seem to matter. It seems to incapacitate them almost immediately once they've docked on, and then they need to be towed back, so they're vulnerable in that state. Yeah. But if you do it simultaneously and you attack, say there's 4 frigates, you can take them all at once. Pretty much.
The 2 rear ones while the front guys. act as a distraction, I suppose.
Exactly. In fact, distraction tactics actually works quite well. You can use little decoy guys and like get people to try and follow you and stuff. They have like stances. You know, you can put them on aggressive or on passive.
Okay, so you just put a guy on passive and let him do a little patrol and try and lead the enemy to your ambush.
Yeah. So
that's neat.
That surprisingly works, considering there's no real terrain. That stuff actually works quite nicely. And and I was like, it took me a while to get used to the classes and stuff, because at first I was like, well, I built some interceptors or whatever to destroy, but then they were like totally evenly matched with the enemy and getting half destroyed every time I fought them. And then even in like that first serious mission, I was like, okay, let's wait. And I ended up like researching corvettes, and they're just more effective. So I just use heavy corvettes instead of fighters, and it's like, well, I need to work out what
the actual balance is, what a fighter is more useful for.
Exactly. Yeah, they're faster, but I mean, you've got scouts if you need like speed for reconnaissance, which are like ship fighters basically. So I haven't really found the niche for fighters. Bombers, I guess I haven't quite got to yet with, launching torpedoes and stuff.
Can you sort of basically use fighters as like a meat shield almost? Like you just put them in front of your heavy duty ships to act as some sort of way to stop fire coming through, or?
I don't know, maybe. They just get crushed, though. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm getting some like frigates and stuff now. And there's like support frigates do repairs quite well, so that's quite useful. Because then you can repair the captured stuff.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And yeah, it looks really cool. Like when you've got like, although I've had it glitch up a bit where you have them in formation and guarding someone. Sometimes they don't fly straight, like they sort of one of them in the middle of the formation is flying straight, and the rest of them are like really tilted upwards or glitching or something. That looks really weird. Because generally it looks super awesome, even when you're looking. You can pan the camera around, and then if you middle click on something, on anything, you can like hook your view to it without selecting it.
Oh, cool.
If you want, so you can like look at enemy ships and stuff. So you generally don't really like pan around the battlefield in the traditional way. You certainly don't do the mouse to the edge of the screen thing. I've even turned that off. But even using
whoever does that,
well, no,
it's always turns that off.
Arrow keys.
Well, the first thing I did was like rebind the keys so that the arrow keys were moved to WASD, and then the things that were on WASD had to be bound to like shift versions of those, because there was like W is for waypoints, S is for stop, stuff like that. But I did that, and that seems to work fine. There's a thing called military selection where you can like make it so that when you click and drag over everything, it only selects the actual military ships rather than your like harvesters and stuff.
That's
so you can like quickly grab everyone,
and
then in fact when you're aiming at something to shoot, generally you like control drag over a bunch of ships to shoot at rather than try and pick, because they're moving quite quickly, so it's quite hard to like say shoot that guy sometimes. So that's quite useful. But yeah, playing Homeworld.
Woo.
And
it stopped you from playing Assassin's Creed 4.
Yeah, well, it just looks so cool. I like spaceship, and I'm glad. And it seems like a really nicely done remaster. Although I can't speak to the insane fans of the original, but maybe it'll be better just playing Homeworld 2.
Yeah, maybe when you get to it, some of it will make more sense or something. Or
yeah, I mean, I could skip straight to 2, but
why would you? You want to get the value out of the package, right?
That's true. It seems to be working on one. So.
Cool, good to hear. Do you reckon this is like a precursor to them thinking about doing a 3, or?
I don't know. It's Gearbox who did the redo, and it seemed like they had a whole bunch of Homeworld devs doing it.
Okay.
So I'm sure there's a lot of passion for it, but I can't see them doing it anytime soon, because it's a bit niche, really.
Well, like a lot of RTS, I suppose, these days.
Yeah. I mean, it's even more. It's more niche than like a StarCraft or whatever. Just because it's got that weird 3D-ness about it and stuff. Yeah.
But that's what makes it stand out,
That's what makes it cool, yeah.
Because what we got these days, you got Total War still holding it up with Attila. It's not an RTS, but I guess, Civ kind of falls into that same sort of player in a way.
I guess.
You got, this Homeworld come back, so we can count that. And then what else you got, really, in that space that's active, like apart from StarCraft? I guess you've got Grey Goo.
I guess, I mean, technically the the Dota type games are what they're called.
I suppose. Yeah.
Are kind of the ancestors of those RTS games, but they're totally different at this point. MOBAs.
Yeah, it's not really the same.
Not really the same.
I'd love to see something like World of Conflict come back.
Yeah,
because the way that
World of
played is
Conflict.
kind of unique.
That was a cool game.
Yeah, it was an awesome game.
But yeah, I'm pleased it exists. Really pleased, and it looks really nice. And I just like spaceship, so
Spaceship.
because it's cool when I mean, it's probably really easy to I mean, the textures are really nicely done up, which is probably the most important part. But then, of course, they've redone all the lighting and everything. And of course, because there's not much going, there are not that many. You can have hundreds of ships, and like compared to an actual environment, there aren't that many polygons. So it's cool that like you get dynamic shadows, and when the small fighters like pass in front between the sun and like a huge capital ship, you get all the cool shadows.
Oh, nice!
And it's like it looks awesome.
That's a nice bit of detail.
Yeah. And I haven't quite got to using heavy beam weapons. I've got these ion frigates, and they do a beam, and like the beam casts the right reflections and stuff, and
awesome.
the ships and stuff. It looks awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I should go check out, see what that looks like in action. Actually.
I need to look into it, but I hope that someone will do, because I remember there being I can't remember how much there was to it, but there was a nice Battlestar Galactica mod for Homeworld 2, so maybe they'll do
maybe they'll
do one for the remastered. Because honestly, I prefer that giant Battlestar that's flat rather than the weird Homeworld mothership, which is like a big fin.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's just that one ship that's the big fin that's like the focus of everything.
Okay.
But the other ship designs I really like. In fact, generally, they're really nicely done. They look super cool, with like nice flashing lights and stuff on them.
Homeworld, recommend.
Yeah. Probably have to talk about that again. We talk about that again because that's going to take a while.
Cool.
But yeah.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's a sort, as I say, it's not a game we really tackle very often, so it's good to hear.
Yeah, you should check it out, Zach. I think you'd be into it. Unless you're a purist, a Homeworld purist. You didn't play the originals, did you? No. Yeah. You'd probably get through it really quickly, though. Yeah.
Speaking of old games redone, they fixed Master Chief Collection.
Did they?
It works. I've played it. I've played multiplayer.
Wow.
That doesn't mean they fixed it.
Well,
It means it worked that one time.
I played a good session. Yeah, I tried a number of playlists, both ranked, the remastered Halo 2 stuff, and the, I played. The only one I haven't played around in is Halo 4. So I played quite a bit of CE, and quite a bit of Halo 2 Classic, and a couple of rounds of Halo 3 Classic, and they all hold up surprisingly well.
Nice.
This is the first time I've played like the original Halo multiplayer, and it is bonkers crazy. Like it's wildly unbalanced, but that makes it hilariously good fun. Because it's just like, first thing you do whenever you spawn is, get rid of your assault rifle and switch to the pistol. And then as soon as you see anyone, throw all your grenades and shoot them in the face. And that's pretty much like, no one cares about any other guns in that mode. It's just like, it's pistols and grenades, and it's great fun. It still holds up. It's pretty cool. As does all the other modes in classic Slayer mode. But this is where I hit the first problem with this. People are annoying.
That's the trouble with people.
Well, because every time I've tried to play a game on Halo 2 Remastered mode, which looks and sounds great, by the way, like the multiplayer stuff that is, it's properly nice looking and handling, especially the way grenades now explode with this like sparks everywhere. It's fucking awesome. But my biggest problem with it is that every time I've been in a game where the room now lets you pick what map and what game type, it gives you a selection of 3 options basically. It's like, do you want to play this map with this game type, or this map with this game type, or this map with this game type? Everyone always picks whatever option is labelled as Slayer Battle Rifle.
Right.
And in actual fact, in the older games especially, that is not a fun way to play those games. Like, I don't like Halo 2 BR mode. Halo 2, if you're going to play Halo 2, you need to play Halo 2 SWAT mode, where headshots are insta-kill, rather than the sort of weird, I don't know, BR versus BR in Halo 2 never felt precise. And that it's like, because of the way the gun slightly spreads, and, that the damage zones are really important in Halo, that if you just miss one headshot, for instance, you're probably going to die. You're going to be the one that loses it. It's not as fun as just playing Halo 2 in its normal...
Vanilla state.
Yeah, in its normal vanilla state. And this is proving a problem for me because I find it very hard to get into a game that isn't a BR game because no one's fucking picking it. And it's like, I am the outlier on this, I guess, because obviously it's always the vote always goes against what I want. So the people have spoken, I suppose, but that for me that is super annoying because I can't play the game how I remember it being because the core experience was why I fell in love with Halo 2. And I can't do that.
Damn it.
And it's like, so it may work, but people are annoying.
Need to get some LAN parties going.
Yeah. So, or, just put SWAT into the mix and get rid of the normal BR mode and I'll be happy. But then I guess everyone will be picking SWAT because it's the most COD-like. I don't know. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. But it all works. I haven't had a problem since the last patch. And it's all happy. Well, I say I haven't had a problem. I think, although matchmaking now works, if you're playing ranked, I think the balance is properly fucked. I've been in many a game where I've been on a team of because I'm still rank 1, but it seems to put me with other low-ranked people on my team, and the other team be like 47 or something ridiculous like that. The way it balances the teams just seems non-existent. To the point where it seems like it's actually trying to unbalance the game. And it's like, and that's no fun either. So, I'm glad that it's working, but there's, a couple of issues there that sort of just really put me off the whole thing, which is a shame. Oh, and also loading times for the new remastered stuff are pretty epic. It's like, if it wasn't for the vote, if the vote bit wasn't there, and it was just dropping people into a random match, I think I'd prefer that because it would force people to play more of the different game types, and it would have given them an opportunity to perhaps think about doing background load because that stuff would have already been decided while the game is setting up. So the time spent between games is too long as a result, and that's no good. That's no good. But at least it now works.
Yeah,
you gotta roll with it a little.
Should have worked when it came out, but
yeah.
I'm waiting for them to fix the plasma pistol.
Yeah, that still does the annoying sound glitch. I tried that out as well. It still stays on. Cut. Oh, and I was playing some more the single player of Halo 1 to try and go skull hunting. And I'm glad I'm reading a guide for that stuff because I would never have found some of them. Really obscure places that you have to do a super dodgy grenade jump to, or prepare your run so you've got a rocket launcher and an overshield in the right place so you can rocket jump to places, stuff like that. I would have never figured those out. I mean, it's another thing I suppose that points to Halo being just a little too hardcore. I think the way it's designed just is a little too much little too in favour of the obsessive. So yeah, Halo. And the other thing, very quickly, I want to say, Blur still holds the fuck up, man. That's a game. I played that in 4-player mode, and it works amazingly well. 4-player split screen, no slowdown, very little, if any, graphical downgrade on the 360. Great bloody game. Still would maintain my stance on that. It's a great bloody game.
Come on, Bizarre.
Yeah.
It's a shame you got shut down.
Buy on PC, then we can play it.
I don't think you can get it on Steam anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's dropped off the Steam store.
Don't know why.
No.
Last time I checked, it still worked. On whatever servers they're running on. I guess I don't know what that bounces off.
Yeah. There's probably places I can get it, but you can't buy it off Steam anymore. Frustratingly. So yeah, I'm sorry for taking up more of your precious time, listeners.
No bravado, it's all good. We're coming towards the end of this podcast.
Nah. Oh wow, we're actually...
Well, ish. Typically I started this, I always forget to actually start it because I'm in the middle of doing my intro. And
oh, okay.
Oh, fuck.
That's not far, we probably only lost, 30 seconds?
Yeah. So yeah.
Podcast over.
Yeah.
Welcome to Season 6, people.
Indeed. Check out our new, as you already have done, theme music for the start of Season 6.
Remember what you heard 2 hours ago.
Well, you're going to get a little sting of it, maybe.
Yeah, haven't thought how I'm going to do that.
Or maybe,
Again.
maybe we'll just repeat the whole thing for you right now, this time around, just so you can bask in the new theme tune, and then next time we'll have a nice satisfying
outro
ending
version.
outro.
Yeah, I don't know. Beer. Just cut it to that bit. Beer. I don't know. Might be a bit solid. But didn't people have problems with when I did the very sudden endings before? It was just
I had problems with
I was
that.
just like bah.
Yeah, we need to smooth it down.
The piano wasn't so bad, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Ding.
It was all good. Right. Thanks for joining us, listeners. Catch us next week or in 2 weeks' time, as always. I always say, what have you been playing this week? And what I mean is the fortnight.
But yeah, what have you been playing in the
Catch
last
us-
time since the last cast we did?
Yeah, catch us next fortnight for more. And in the meantime, watch out for videos of some kind.
Always
Going up.
be videos.
Check out happysalad.net.
Sonic Adventure went up to yesterday.
Yeah, those ones are very entertaining, so I highly recommend checking those out if you have a spare way too much time to waste watching people play a crappy video game.
It's like over an hour of Knuckles.
Great job. Cut that out.
It's the end.
Yeah.
Bye!
Bye.